Thursday, everybody. Hope you're having a great day in the Delaware Valley and far beyond. As we begin this wonderful Thursday, we got schedules to go over. We got Phillies to talk about. So many things going on. Bill Colarulo with us all day today, which is going to be awesome as we take you up till 2 o'clock. We can't hesitate. We want to congratulate Ricky Bottalico, who has a daughter graduating from college this weekend. Somebody asked me one time, why do parents get congratulated? Well, wait till you become a parent, your kid goes through college, and you'll realize why. And I've been lucky enough to have 2, and I have a 3rd coming up, and you'll understand when you get there why the parents get congratulated. But we have a lot to look at today, and of course it's going to start you know where. It has to start with the front page.
Now, the front page. The stories everyone's talking about. 97.5, The Fanatic.
Well, as we said, that schedule was released. And I walked in early this morning, and Connor comes over to me and he says, "What do you think?" And I said, "You know what, Connor? This is what I got for you. They're going to play 17 games. 8 of them are going to be at Lincoln Financial Field. 8 are going to be away at opposing places, and there's going to be 1 in Brazil." There it is. There's the breakdown. Of course, we're going to get deeper into it. Pretty cool. We're going to talk about some of the things that you like. Our first segment, what do you like about the schedule? What don't you like? We're going to talk about that later in the show. I heard them talk this morning, and it's funny, Bill, that you're sitting here with me now. I heard those guys bring up this morning that, I think it was Andrew, said, "Yeah, I don't care when the bye week is." I don't care if Andrew doesn't care when the bye week is. I think players do. And you had a stat that you brought up that made me think of you that we'll get into again. But I do. I think the bye week is important, and it's not a stat. I think it's important for the well-being of players and for this team in particular, and we'll talk about that. You have 2 home 1 o'clock games, possibly 3. That Giants game, last game of the season, is not out there yet. 6 1 o'clock games altogether right now. Again, could be 7. I love that. I think this team needed a little normalcy last year because it was so up and down. That's going to happen to good teams. And great teams figure out how to maneuver a schedule that's kind of weird and wonky because you're a good team and primetime calls you. But I love that there's a lot of 1 o'clock games. They have 5 primetime games. We'll look at it all. And also, I was telling Bill this earlier, I want to look at the other NFC teams, the 49ers, the Cowboys, the Rams, the Lions. Let's look at them and see what, where the wonkiness might come in their schedule, like we're going to do with the Eagles today. Your Philadelphia Phillies, yawn. All they did was improve to 31-13. 7:05 baseball is what they're playing, producer Ray Dunn. That's pretty good as Ray went to his 14th Phillies game last night. He goes to number 15 tonight. The kids got the life. They're now 3 up on the Braves. The Braves lost last night, so a 3-game lead by the Phillies. They've won 16 of 19, 23 of 25. This is a lot of fun right now. Last night was sloppy. It was ugly. Ray was, having to endure the elements. We're watching it on TV. You could barely see it. It was gross. And then finally that cleared, and the grossness of the game kind of went away a little bit. Bryce Harper, 3 hits, 3 RBIs, a home run. Kyle Schwarber, a couple of hits. Ranger Suarez improves to 8-0. He didn't look great. 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, no earned runs, only 83 pitches. It just seemed to me, people were asking on Twitter afterwards, what's the matter with him? What's the matter? It just seemed like a crap night. And he had a big lead, and I think Rob Thompson just said, you know what? This is one of those nights where 83 pitches is fine. You're going to win the game, and that's what they did. Spencer Turnbull came out of the bullpen. He didn't have a good night. 3 innings pitched, 5 hits, 3 earned runs. But all in all, 10-5 win over the Mets. That's all that matters. Those two will go at it in Game 2 of this series tonight. I'm saying that emphatically because Ray and I had this discussion yesterday. It was a 2-game series up in New York. It's a 2-game series here. They swept the series in New York. They're up 1-0 on the 2-game series here. We have to get to Silvana. She had that a little bit confused yesterday also. So Taijuan Walker goes tonight versus lefty Jose Quintana. Quintana's not that good. 1-4, 5.44 ERA. Then this is cool. After tonight, the Phillies are still home The Nationals come in for 3, and then the Texas Rangers come in for 3. So still, after tonight, 6 more home games. On the national front, Boston Celtics advance to the Eastern Conference Finals for the 3rd straight year as they eliminate the Cleveland Cavaliers. Dallas goes up 3-2 with their win over Oklahoma City last night in Oklahoma City. Kind of an ugly game, but a game that Dallas had to win, and they did. Oklahoma City had to win it too. But Dallas won it the way they needed to play the game. NBA tonight, Denver Nuggets are up 3-2. They're at the Timberwolves, looking to close that out. In the NHL, the Rangers up 3-2. They're going to be at Carolina trying to finish out that series again. And Caitlin Clark, she makes her home debut in Indiana tonight. She made her WNBA debut on Tuesday night. All that did was draw 2.1 million viewers. Highest viewed WNBA game since 2001. She makes her home debut tonight. I think it's on like Amazon or something. I'm not really sure, but that's what we got going on the front page news today. Bill, how are you? Everything going well?
Oh, everything's going great, man. The schedule release just means we are one step closer to the regular season.
It does, and you and Andrew DeCecco, phenomenal job last night.
It was a lot of fun. Andrew, as you know, does such a great job, but it was a YouTube-only special, the first one we've ever done. Great showing by our 97.5 The Fanatic listeners and followers, so we appreciate everybody who tuned in, and hopefully we'll be bringing a lot more on the digital side.
And Ray Dunn, going through the elements last night as you did at the Phillies game, you're okay?
I battled through.
I gave you a fist pump when you came in this morning. Your hands still felt a little cold. I don't know. That was tough last night, sitting through that.
Honestly, it was just like the first 2 innings. You just got to kind of sit there, deal with it, take it a little bit, and then you end up having a great last 7 innings.
You got to sit there, deal with it, and take it a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, good for you. I'm proud that you were able to do that. And it might go to Friday night, 5:30.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
I was listening yesterday, and I agree with Ray that this is a series, not 2 series. I know that how they consider it. I know they consider it 2 separate series, but here's my argument, Bob. If this was the postseason, you don't play all your games at home. You don't play all your games on the road, and yet you consider it 1 series. Why is this any different?
It's funny. I don't know. I mean, it's just how MLB has done it, and I'm having fun with it. But, yeah, when I was driving home the other day and the best show ever went to commercial, I flipped over to the Phillies game, and Fransky was in the middle of officially saying what it is. And he's like, look, I'm just telling you, Major League Baseball has officially deemed this a 2-game series up here in New York and a 2-game series down there in Philadelphia. And the reason you talk about it is because the Phillies haven't lost a series since the second one of the season. So it carries that on. You can count it as a sweep when the year is over, and they might be able to count this as 2 sweeps.
That would be nice.
Should they win again tonight. Yeah, this Phillies team is a lot of fun right now. And there's been some kind of ugly, bad baseball played by them over the past, 4 or 5 games at times. But they're so good, they just overcome it. But the big story that we're getting into, it is the Eagles' schedule. And you heard Andrew all morning trying to extract wins and losses from John Kincade. I got to tell you, it's a rarity. But I agree with Kincade on this one. I don't do W&Ls all throughout the schedule. I'll look at it. I'll decipher like, oh, this is going to be tough because they're here, there, when, and all. I think Adam Schefter, to me, put it best yesterday when he was on the morning show with Kincade and Salciunas when he said, look, guys, I don't do W's and L's. I'll tell you, I think the Eagles should be like an 11, 12-win football team. I'm kind of there. That's where I am.
Yeah, it's not a very productive exercise when you go and look because teams are always better than you thought they were, or you have those games where you don't play well and all that, but it's a lot of fun, man. I mean, that's what it is. It's all about
looking at the schedule.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun doing the W's and L's, and it's funny. Did you ever see that movie? Patton Oswalt was in it. I think it was called The Fan, where he's this obsessed New York Giants fan.
Is that right? He's great. I love Patton Oswalt.
So it's a really good movie, but he ends up going to jail because he comes to Philly because he has this ongoing debate with this Philadelphia Eagles fan. So he ends up going to jail, and he's behind the glass, and his friend comes and he tells him as he's behind the glass in prison, the schedule's out for next season, and then he puts it up on the glass and he looks at it, he goes, we're going 17-0. Like that's just how, every year fans, we look at the schedule. But the good thing is, and we knew this even before the schedule was released, you look at the opponents. The Eagles are really going to be favored as of right now. I know things will change, but as of right now, you would think they're favored in 13 out of 17 games. And now the early lines have come out, and it supports that. And the game in L.A. is basically a pick'em game. So really, when you look at the odds, the Super Bowl odds and all that, the Eagles on paper, and again, on paper, are the better team 14 out of 17 times. That's pretty good.
How about that? Yeah, I think it was it 2 years ago that there was only one game that they weren't favored in? Or something that might have been coming off the Super Bowl season that like this time, same time after schedule, you looked at it, and I guess those early lines came out, and they were only not favored in one game. So it all came out. What I want to do this segment, let's take a look at the goodness of the schedule. What do you like about it? And I know a lot of you have thoughts on the schedule out there. 610-632-0975. You know we'd love to hear from you. You can call us now, talk to us, whatever you want to talk about schedule-wise, but you can also text us. Let us know your thoughts on some things. For this first segment, though, we're going to look at just the positives. And Bill just laid out some positives there, that there is 14 out of 17 games it looks like the Eagles are favored in for now. But, Bill, when you had the first glance at the schedule, and we had a bunch of leaks, and it was funny, our buddy Karate Mark sent me a text during the show yesterday. He's like, Bob, I think I have the schedule. And I was like, oh, cool. And he texted me. And I was like, dude, you got to realize I can't run with this. Like, that's how I roll. I need it verified by a certain amount of people, all that stuff. He's like, yeah, no sweat. I understand. He goes, let's just see how close it comes. Spot on.
Yeah.
Spot on. It's funny how many people get a hold of the schedule.
Yeah, the leak yesterday morning was accurate, which you can't always go with, though, like you said, because we've had leaks before, and it's never always accurate. But there is a lot of good to find in this schedule.
Okay, what do you got good, Bill? Let's start it off by just general. You see the schedule, you look at it, just your general thoughts of why, where it's good.
Well, you looked at last season and the way it ended. A lot of people call it a collapse. And then you look at this schedule towards the end, and it's very favorable for them to finish on a high note. They have 4 of their final 6 games at Lincoln Financial Field, and they don't have to get on an airplane after week 12. That's huge, man. That is huge because of the fact, and we'll get to when we talk about the bye being very early. It is nice that you finish the season without having to get on a plane.
Oh, that no question. That is absolutely awesome. I don't mind. I don't like the opponent, but I don't mind. My first goodness of it is that's going to be a really tough game in Brazil. A really, really tough game. The Packers are good. The elements is different. All of those things. As much as you want to say, it's the NFL. Both teams have to play on the field, all that stuff. I do understand that, but it is tough. It's tough going somewhere else. And, we've all been around at teams when they have to do something out of the ordinary like that. There's just different elements that come into play. That game is going to be a tough game. I like that they're coming home to some people. Our friend Chris Miller yesterday said, watch out for Atlanta. They're a good team. Everybody's downplaying them. Well, Chris, you said the same team last year that they were going to win their division. They were 7-10. I still don't trust Atlanta to be a really good team. I like that they're coming home against a caliber of opponent like that. At first, I didn't like having that caliber of opponent on a Monday night game, but the extra day of rest and the heightened awareness of being on a Monday night football game, I don't think you get a letdown from the Eagles there in a game that they should win. So that's my early part of what I like of the schedule, that comeback game, because I don't know how you feel about that opening game, Bill, in Brazil, and it's probably going to be one of those, I don't know what's going to happen type of games, but I don't mind that Monday night football game now against Atlanta.
Now, I like the Monday night game, and you talk about the extra day of rest. You're going to be all the way over in Brazil. Yeah, it's a Friday night, but it's nice now that they can get back, take their time, and they have that extra day of rest. And it's the first home game, the first official home game. And it's a good thing for the Philadelphia Eagles, I think, that you're getting the Atlanta Falcons early, because not only do they have a new quarterback in Kirk Cousins, they have a whole new coaching staff with Raheem Morris, a new offensive coordinator in Zach Robinson. They have a lot of new pieces that they've tried to add as well, because once that offense gets clicking, they have a ton of weapons in Atlanta. That was part of the problem with Arthur Smith last year. He never could figure out how to take advantage of all these guys. You had Bijan Robinson. You had Kyle Pitts. You had Drake London. Now they add Darnell Mooney to that offense and Kirk Cousins. So hopefully we're going to get them before they start to hit their stride.
Yeah, I think you mentioned, what'd you say, 4 out of the last 5 games are at home? You have to love that. Week 14, 15 home, away
4 out
16.
of 6. 4 out of 6.
14, 15, 16, 17. Oh, I got 4 out of 5. Aren't they?
Oh, yeah, 4 out of 5. You're all correct.
I'm
saying 4 out of
That's
6.
Okay. 4 out of 5. Well, it is officially 4 out of 6 if you add in that Baltimore game.
If you add in
but,
the Ravens.
yeah, 4 out of their last 5 here at Lincoln Financial Field, where you have in Week 14, Carolina at home at 1. Week 15, Pittsburgh Steelers, 4:30. Then you go to Washington. Then Week 17, Dallas at home. Week 18, the Giants at home. I love that. I love that 4 out of 5 to finish the season. And, Bill, you make a great point, especially after what happened last year. You know, knowing that you have in your pocket, okay, you're going to finish 80% of that schedule. 4 out of 5, you're going to finish at home. Yeah. That's got to be real soothing.
Yeah, and you go right before that, the Baltimore Ravens game, which when you look at it, it looks like it's going to be a tough matchup. Obviously, the Ravens are a really good team. But go look at the Baltimore Ravens schedule, because before they have to play the Eagles, go to Week 11. Actually, you could go all the way back to Week 10. They're home against the Cincinnati Bengals. Then they're on the road at the Pittsburgh Steelers, 2 tough AFC North matchups. Then they have to go on the road to L.A. for a Monday night game. So you're going to get the Baltimore Ravens coming off of a short week, traveling cross-country from L.A. Now, the Eagles will also be coming back from L.A., but at least theirs is Sunday night. That's a tough ask for the Baltimore Ravens. They're going to be favored in that game, most likely. The Ravens are going to be a good team. But you almost catch a break. There's one more thing, too, Bob, that is a huge break for the Philadelphia Eagles. Last year, I forget the exact number, but there were so many games where the Eagles' opponent had an extended rest. This season, the Eagles don't play a single team that's coming off their bye week.
Yeah,
Huge.
What did they have last year, like 6 or so?
It was a ton. It was a ton of times where the Eagles were on shorter rest than the team they were playing. They don't get that.
Yeah, even if a team wasn't coming off the bye last year, a lot of them were coming off like a Thursday night game that they had that long rest. So that stuff goes into play. Every year the NFL probably puts out a schedule. They think everything's great and all. Then some things come about. Like, I'll bet you somebody in the NFL offices last year was like, damn, the Eagles are playing a bunch of teams that have a ton of rest compared to themselves. Well, if they did, it was certainly fixed this year. I also told you before that I like to look at the elements, like where are they playing December, late November, December, all those things, maybe even into January. This year, it's in Philadelphia. I don't really count elements when it's home because you're here, all during the week what it's going to be like, all of those things. I get a little nervous going on a road and you're going to say Cincinnati or Baltimore in a snowstorm or something. I know both teams have to go through it or whatever, but it's just something in my head that they really don't have much of that. I mean, December 1st in Baltimore, early December, I'm okay with that. Other than that, it's all home. Washington, December 22nd. Washington is Washington. I think this year's going to be another growing year, trying year for them. Obviously, you want them earlier on in the year with a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, that's the major X factor when you look at the Commanders. Does Jaden Daniels come in here and turn into the next C.J. Stroud? You're not expecting that. That's the outlier. But that's the only way where the Commanders could really take that leap is if he comes in as a rookie and just does what C.J. Stroud did last year and impresses everybody. I'm not expecting that from them. But they did add a lot of pieces this offseason, the Commanders. They added a lot of players on the defensive side of the football as well. So I think they'll be better. Yeah, you would have liked to maybe had them earlier in the season, but that should still be a team where the Eagles beat them. But every year, the Commanders seem to give the Eagles trouble.
Yeah, and it usually seems to be a split there. Like, are you looking at 4-2? Do you just type in 4-2 if it's better at 5-1 or 6-0 against the division? Sure. That's what I do. 4-2, and you see what happens. Usually there's a split with Dallas, and either the Giants or the Commanders usually get one, and, you just move on from there, and there it is.
Now, I was talking about the Baltimore Ravens. Look at who they play before the Eagles. Look at who the Pittsburgh Steelers have. Look at the gauntlet that they have where the Eagles fall right in the middle of it. You go Week 11, Steelers have the Baltimore Ravens, then they're at Cleveland, at Cincinnati, home against Cleveland, then on the road against the Eagles, then at Baltimore, and then they finish Kansas City, Cincinnati.
Wow.
That is a tough stretch. So I think the Eagles catch a break there as well because that's just a tough spot for the Steelers playing all those divisional opponents, traveling on the road and then having to come here to Philadelphia, that's going to be an advantage for the Birds.
That is tough, and that's a good pickup by you. We're going to do more of that. We're going to look at some of the NFC teams also that the Eagles are going to be vying with for the conference title, see how their schedule may play out. But we're going to stay with the Eagles. When we get back, we're going to take a look at some of the things you don't really love about the schedule, because I have a few. I know Bill probably has a few. I'm sure you do too. We're here for you, 610-632-0975. You can call in and talk to us, which we absolutely love. If you don't have time, if you can't do it, if the boss is hovering, you can text that line also. Let us know your thoughts about the Eagles' schedule. Bill Colarulo, he'll be with us until 2 o'clock today. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Happy Thursday, everybody. Hope you're all having a great day. Bill, when I was driving in, I saw this blue thing. It was really weird. Like, I'm driving in, and I even called my wife on the speaker. I'm like, this is weird. I'm driving, and I see, like, blue. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't know. I don't remember what it is. I was looking in the sky, and there was, like, some blue. What is that?
We're hoping that this rain is completely out of the system because we're getting married June 1st, man. We need those blue skies.
Not me and you.
Not me and you.
No, yeah. You and Bridget.
Nothing against you, Bob. I'm
all
sure
right.
you're...
And where are you you're getting married here in Jersey, right? I mean, over in Jersey.
Over in Jersey, yeah.
Yes.
Tavistock.
Okay, and then a nice little vacation for a honeymoon you got going on, huh?
Yeah, that's why I'm working hard this week, trying to be here as much as possible because I'm going to miss some time. I'm going to miss our listeners and our watchers on YouTube, man.
I don't know, when you're swimming in where are you going, Aruba?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'll be all right. I think you'll forget about us very quickly, and we won't mind it. I do want to throw out there, May 16th, happy anniversary to Tom and Butch. Anybody know who that is? That'd be my mom and dad. My mom's nickname was Butch. Her name was Mildred, but she was known as Butch.
Yeah.
So today would have been their 71st wedding anniversary.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was funny. My sister texted me the other day, and she's like, you're so much better at this than I am. Mom and Dad's anniversary. When was it? How many years? What would it have been? I'm like, right on top of it. Yep, I got you. So up wherever they are, happy anniversary, Mom and Dad. So we appreciate that. Okay, first segment, we looked at the Eagles' schedule, gave the positives. Bill, I'm going to start off with my negative. I know you have a number on it. The number, I think, just goes side by side. Does it rule anything? I don't know. It's a great number that you have. But I hate that the Eagles, is that the first bye week number 5?
That's as early as it can be now with the 17-game season.
I don't want to say disrespectful or anything like that, but I can't stand that. I'm not looking at, for the number you're going to give, that doesn't rule my day on it. That's a great number that you're going to give, but I just don't think it's right that, you're getting into a groove after 4 weeks. You're getting is the break needed then? Probably not. Is it more of a nuisance than it is a help? I think it is. I'd rather see, as we all probably would, an off week being a bye week being like 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there. This is just way too early. I don't like it. They get into a 4-game groove, which they need to do after the last 7 games of last year. It kind of gets thwarted. I just don't like it. And you have a really good number to go along with this.
Yeah, I hate the Week 5 bye. Can't stand it. I said this earlier on the show this week. You look at the last 14 Super Bowl winners. That's 14 years now. Now, it wasn't Andrew Salciunas this morning who dismissed it. It was John Kincade, Bob. But John said he doesn't think this is a valid stat. But you go 14 Super Bowl winners. None of them had a bye week before Week 7. And 9 of the 14 had their bye weeks in Week 10 or later. We have to go all the way back to the 2009 New Orleans Saints when they won the Super Bowl with a Week 5 bye. But guess what? There was only a 16-game season back then. So it's even more important to have a late bye right now. I don't like it. I know it's not, hey, the season's over, you can overcome this. But you look at the other NFC contenders, because that's what I'm looking at. The Detroit Lions also have a Week 5 bye, so that's a positive. But then you look at the Green Bay Packers, and a lot of people are thinking they're going to make that leap. Week 10 bye week. San Francisco 49ers, Week 9 bye week. The Dallas Cowboys, Week 7 bye week. So the Eagles kind of get screwed on that one a little bit.
I would think that the NFL schedule makers go into it and say, all right, look, the teams that are viable contenders for a Super Bowl, for their conference titles, I would think they would get a little leniency somehow, some way, when they spit schedules into a computer and have them all come out. But I don't like it. I don't want to call it disrespectful because I don't know the ins and outs of, spitting things into the computer, what kind of information is fed in. But, yeah, that was the first thing that I didn't like at all. I also not a huge fan of which one was it? Let's see. Oh, I didn't mind that the November 24th, they're out in L.A. They made that a Sunday night football game. Then you got to come back the next week and go to Baltimore. That is tough. But as you said, Baltimore also has a very challenging schedule leading up to that game.
Yep.
At first glance, I didn't like that, but those are kind of things that are going to happen on an NFL schedule.
Yeah, I had the exact same reaction as you. Sunday night game in L.A. on the road, having to come back and then go on the road to Baltimore. But then when I looked, well, Baltimore's Monday night in L.A. made me feel a little bit better about it. But the other thing I don't really love about all this is they don't start the season with enough home games. I mean, you're in Brazil week 1. Then you come back for week 2 at home on Monday night. But then you only have one game at the Link in the first 5 weeks of the year.
Right.
For a team that is trying to get the bad taste out of their mouth from the way the season ended, I was hoping they'd have a little bit easier of a start with some home games mixed in. But when you talked about, how does the NFL do this? Are they thinking about our Fightin' Phils? Are they thinking about the Fightin' Phils? Because given the Eagles the week 5 bye, that's October, man. We're in red October at that point.
It is. And our friend Tristan Holman, who's a big listener to the station and a good friend of everybody's also, he put that out on Twitter, that could be game 1 and 2 of the NLDS, I think he said, whatever it may be. Maybe, just maybe. And that's where goodness comes to hurt you a little bit. But, Ray, when you look at this schedule, and the badness and the goodness. I didn't go to you so give me just your synopsis on both of that, the badness and the goodness of this schedule.
Yeah, real negative is that we're going to have our attention split between that Jaguars game in Week 9 and the World Series for the Phillies. That's going to bother me. That Sunday Night Football is probably going to run up somewhere near the World Series schedule for the Phillies at home. So we'll have to see how that works out. But in terms of the rest of it, in terms of the rest of it, I hate Thursday Night Football in general, so we're on it. We have to be on it, but, that bothers me just because I know that's going to be a shame coming off of a short week against the Cowboys on the road. You guys talked about the L.A., the Baltimore thing. Don't love that. Absolutely love the fact they're not getting on a plane after they get back from L.A. That'll be pretty cool. They give us the end of the season against the Giants, which is just a little PTSD for me right now, but that should be fine. The bye sucks. And then the fact that we get one 1 o'clock game at Lincoln Financial Field in the months of September and October is brutal. And I hate that. So, ultimately, in terms of the wins and losses, I just kind of look at this in terms of the way they're giving us. I'm looking at this as venues, schedules, times, instead of, the football that's going to be played. But I'm fine with it. I think it could have been a lot better. But, I don't make these things, and they're pretty difficult to make these things.
I think I got to correct you on one thing there, Ray, because I just pulled up the Major League Baseball playoff schedule, and I'm assuming that this can change. But as of right now, the World Series would end Saturday, November 2nd. So hopefully.
Oh, so I'd just be hungover after the big celebration.
Exactly. We'd be celebrating the World Series win, and then we would stumble in to watch Dougie P get beat by the Philadelphia Eagles. So that could be a nice 2 days.
Yeah, I could enjoy those 2 days. All right. Well, in that case, that's fine. We'll just have a World Series weekend. Well, that's also Game 7. I mean, they're winning it clearly in 6. So we'll be fine.
It's funny you bring up Doug Peterson. This is just a quick little side note. Because I heard John Kincade say to Andrew this morning, what do you mean? It doesn't move you when Doug Peterson brings a football team in here, the guy that brought your only championship? And I said out loud, I'm like, no, I'm an adult. Another adult coming here to coach a team doesn't move me. Doug Peterson, and I said this since he left here. It might have been while he was still here. Jamie and I used to have this argument a lot. He's a 500 coach to me. That's what he is in the NFL. I always thought he was going to be. He's now, I think, 7 games over. If you take away the 13-3 anomaly season, he's 47-50 in his coaching career. I just think that's who he is. I always have thought that. It was great. He got the year. The lightning in the bottle was phenomenal. He was the head coach of it. That was great. I just really think he's just in my mind, just like a 500 coach. So that's the schedule part of it. We're gonna obviously spill into that a lot more today. But go ahead, Bill.
No, I was gonna say there's one more thing that I don't like, if we're staying on the negative of the schedule, is they don't have the gauntlet like they did last year, but they do have a little bit of a rough stretch when you look at week 8 through week 13, specifically talking about the opposing team's quarterbacks, because you have to go up now in 5 of 6 games against really good quarterbacks. You're going up against Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Dak Prescott. You get a little bit of a respite, hopefully, with a rookie, Jaden Daniels, but then you have to take on Matt Stafford and Lamar Jackson. So there's not the gauntlet like last season, but to me, that's probably the toughest stretch, week 8 through week 13.
That is a pretty good stretch right there. You're right. And when I was going over it last night, I thought the exact same thing. I don't mind that it's a 4:30. I like the 4:30 start in Cincinnati. Get yourself a little more, acclimated. It's a big game. Yeah, Jacksonville being a Sunday night football game. Dallas 4:30 is what we expected. And then I'm surprised that Washington on a Thursday night football. I'm with you, Ray. I don't like watching Thursday night football. I think the product isn't all that good
bad.
because they're just coming off of so much before that. But that is a rough run right there.
That could be the trap game too, Bob, the Washington Commanders game, because you're on the road the week before in Dallas. Let's hope they can go into Arlington and finally win. It's been a while. But then you have to come back short week against the Commanders. That's where the quote-unquote trap game could be.
Who does Washington have on Week 10? I know you have the full schedule in front of you. Who does Washington have Week 10, November 10th? I believe it is.
They are home against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay. All right. So they just have to travel up here for that game. All right. Terrell in Philly wants to talk a little bit about Jalen Hurts. Terrell, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, what's up? Yeah, before I get to my point, man, you see the ugly Giants uniforms they just unveiled?
It's funny. Bill just showed it to me during the break. Yeah.
I kind of like it,
I
Terrell.
don't mind them, Terrell.
Oh, man. Okay. Okay. So I asked your cousin this, and I listen to your cousin, and I listen to Bill on the weekends. They do phenomenal work with D. And I asked your cousin this, and, we got to get him on during the week, too. Like, what's up with that?
Well, he's not actually my cousin. We just tease, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I asked him, what does Jalen Hurts have to, like, how far does the Eagles have to go for you not to put Jalen Hurts on the hot seat? Like, Kevin said, they can't lose to a team that's worse than them, and they got to go to the championship game. What's your opinion?
As far as putting him on the hot seat?
Yeah, this season. Obviously, we're married to him for a long time, but, every quarterback goes on the hot seat after they don't win a lot.
Sure.
How far does he have to go for you this year?
I appreciate it, Terrell. Thank you. I look at this team as like a 10 to 12 win football team. My concerns come more on the defensive side of the ball, and I think my concerns on that side are even bigger than a lot of other people's. I'll talk to you about this later on in the show, Bill, about my concerns with the defense. Look, and Jalen Hurts to me, and I've said it since the middle of last year and all, he had that one great season. I don't label him as a great quarterback. I don't label him as a bad quarterback. I kind of still sit on the fence and say, okay, what is he? He's got everything at his disposal. I think this is a telltale year, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say the Eagles have to get to the NFC Championship game for me to believe in Jalen Hurts, because it depends on, how are they losing games? Are they losing because the defense is so bad? For me, what I need to see from Jalen Hurts is simple. Clean up the turnovers. In 2022, the reason they were so good, he only turned the ball over 8 times. Last year, he turned the ball over 20 times. That was the major difference from his MVP caliber 2022 season to the way 2023 went. So if I see him put up similar numbers to last year, but just reduce those turnovers back into the single-digit range, I'm feeling pretty good about Jalen.
Yeah. There's no reason, really, why he shouldn't be really good this year. I think there was a injury last year. I think he was dealing with something. As I said many times before, you could see his movement from the year prior to last year. It was night and day. He just didn't look like himself. All right, a lot more Eagles talk coming up. Also, I have a word yesterday that I described about the Phillies, and that was fun. I have another word today. I'll let you know what that is. We'll look a little bit at what they've been doing. All that and more. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. 11 or 10:49 rather here at 97.5 The Fanatic. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're having a great Thursday, my favorite day of the week. As I have told you before, I just wake up with even a little bit more energy on Thursdays for some reason. I want to tell you the 10 o'clock hour. It's brought to you by Window Nation. Take advantage of Window Nation's 50% off sale on all style windows. Plus, make no down payment with no payments and no interest for 12 full months. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. I'm not normally a guy that likes to stir the pot with people, Bill. You know, like busting stones a little bit. Yeah, we all do it, and especially if you're an athlete or you're in the sports world, that's all part of it. But I don't usually go out of my way to do it. I have the last couple of days.
Yeah, you're getting me nervous where this is going.
Yeah, no, it's just a little side story. But my cousin is a New York Mets fan, and he texted me the other night. I told this story when you weren't here the other day. He's also a Rangers fan, a New York Rangers hockey fan. Texted me the other night, oh, Rangers up 1-0, and look at the Mets beating up the Phils. How come we're not saying anything about that? I waited a little bit. Sure enough, Phillies take the lead. Sure enough, the Rangers blow a 1-0 lead, get down 4-1. I have been relentless on him since. So yesterday, last I saw, the Mets were up 2-1. I haven't checked in on the score for a while. At this time, it was like 10-1 or 10-2. And, so I have been doing it, and I got to tell you, it's like if you're not a drinker or something, then you do it once in a while, and you're like, yeah, it's nice every once in a while.
You're getting addicted now?
It's pretty fun. It is pretty fun. I got to give you that.
It's always fun, too, with the Mets. For whatever reason, people just don't like the Mets in this town. I mean, it's ingrained in us as Philadelphia fans. You don't like the Mets.
Well, it's funny. I was watching the game last night, and on my computer, I had on the YouTube page with you and Andrew DeCecco, and there was a routine ground ball by Schwarber to the shortstop. And shortstop Bobbleson picks it up. For some reason, hurried the throw, throws it into the dugout, all this stuff. And they showed you didn't see it right. They show a Mets fan in the stands, and he raises his hands and then gives it the old, you stink, and turns around and walked out. It looked like he walked out of Citizens Bank Park. They did show him a little bit later, though. As great as your YouTube was last night with Andrew that I mentioned with the Eagles schedule, 1A, tied with you guys, maybe a little after you guys. Have you guys seen the Tennessee Titans schedule release on Twitter?
Seen it yet. No, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh
I saw
God.
the Eagles one.
They did. That was cool. Their video was cool. What the Tennessee Titans do is, and they did it last year and they did it again this year, they have a girl go out on Broadway and say, hey, I want to get your reaction. I'll show you a team and let me know what you think about the people that are on YouTube. You got to check this out. So they'll put up like the horseshoe of the Indianapolis Colts, and the girls will be like, oh, yeah, I'm a huge Cowboys fan. And then they'll go boom and play the music, dun da da da, and they'll show the Baltimore Colts or Indianapolis Colts symbol, and it'll say above it like, oh yeah, I'm a huge Cowboys fan. But check it out, it is hysterical. Tennessee Titans, I got to give a little tip of the cap to you because I thought that was just absolutely wonderful. So we're talking a lot today about. I brought up Doug Peterson earlier, how I said he's a 500 coach. Voudrew on our YouTube page says Doug P equals better than Nick Sirianni. Obviously he's got a.
I'll always have a special
Super
place
Bowl.
in my heart for Dougie P.
I give him all right, good job, way to go.
I'll always have a special place in my heart, but along the lines of what we were talking about, I'm not overly excited that he's coming back to Lincoln Financial Field. It doesn't really do much for me.
You're not moved?
No, I'm not.
It's
moved.
a second time, too.
Second time.
Yeah.
We saw this happen once.
Horrible weather the first time he came back.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
And they got
ugly
behind
game.
in that
Yeah.
game, yeah.
It's different, too. I mean, he's a coach. He wasn't here very long. I was working for the Eagles the game that Brian Dawkins came back for the Denver Broncos, and that was special. I have never, still to this day, heard an opposing player get the ovation. He actually did his Brian Dawkins intro where he would come out and, crawl and do. He did that from the Broncos tunnel, and the place went nuts. There were so many Dawkins jerseys, Broncos Dawkins jerseys from Eagles fans in the building. So that's a little different when the player plays. For Dougie P, I think we'll give him a nice little ovation, and then he'll get booed on the way out.
Oh, yeah, no question about it. I just, I've always thought it. I remember I had what was it? We had a debate one time on a morning show years back with a certain guy that doesn't have hair on his head and is really funny and everybody loves. And I said, all right, if you had one game to pick a coach, would you take Andy Reid or would you take Doug Peterson? And he went Doug Peterson.
Who said that?
It was a guy that used to work here who had bald head and had glasses. And
They're lying to themselves.
Wore flip-flops a
wore
lot.
flip-flops.
Oh, I know who it is.
Gets grossed out by people using the same finger nail clippers with each other. Does that gross you out? Like, do you share, like, if Bridget gets done using...
So it's funny you bring this up because I've been starting to wonder lately, is it gross to use the same clippers for your fingers that you use for your feet? Not even different people. Because, you don't want to use the same clippers for your feet that you use for your fingers. I've never thought that before, but lately I'm starting to question it, that you need two separate ones.
Well, go ahead, Ray. You're all like, what? Yeah, so Jamie thought that it's gross for somebody to clip their nails with nail clippers somebody else used. I got to tell you, I'm sorry. I'm in the practice of I'm always clean. So it's like not like I'm clipping and then running around going, check out my, I usually wash my hands. Soon after or whatever. Yeah.
Anybody
Well, after, that means the clippers are dirty.
Yeah.
Has to be washing
You
before.
always wash your clippers when you're done, don't you? I always run some underwater and
I mean, I'm not big on the whole sharing clippers thing.
Yo, you're not. I don't.
No.
He's
give a-
not-
I don't
he's not
give a rat's
married.
ass
Well,
about
I
it.
mean,
he's not married.
I live with
You live
myself.
alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, this is. There was someone else using my clippers. That's a bigger story.
He's an old recluse at this point. No, but to the conversation, no one, if they're being honest with themselves, as much as I love Doug Peterson, no one would pick him over Andy Reid. You never would do that.
Yeah, look, it might have been recency bias because I guess we were a year or two out. I've just always looked at Doug Peterson as a 500 coach. Maybe he'll turn things around with Trevor Lawrence this year. Trevor Lawrence has kind of been stuck in that, like, kind of mediocrity with the big motor, but he just can't get it going yet. We'll see. We'll see how that all plays out. All right, we get back. We have a couple text messages that we need to get to, and we want to hear from you. 610-632-0975. A lot of stuff on the board. How do you like the Eagles' schedule? Do you not look at it that way? Do you just say, hey, I knew who they were playing. I knew who they were playing home. I knew who they were playing away. I still have them as a blank win team. What is your thoughts? How many wins do you see this team getting? Because I'm going to pose a question to Bill and to you that is really concerning me. 610-632-0975. Bill Colarulo here with us until the best show ever. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Happy Thursday, everybody. 11 o'clock hour here at 97.5 The Fanatic. Bob Cooney with you on middays, joined by Bill Colarulo today as we take a look at a lot of things. You got the Eagles schedule out there now. What do you think? I threw out there that I have a huge question, and I think, I hear everybody, 12-win team. Adam Schefter the other day, as I said, I kind of go along with his thinking on this. I don't do the number. He said, look, I just look at the Eagles at an 11, 12-win team. This was before the schedule came out. He said, I don't need to look at a schedule. That's what I believe they are. Here's my question on that. Really? Can we comfortably say that, an 11, a 12-win team? That's a really good team in the NFL. Now, 11-6 looked horrible last year for the Eagles, but there's 11-6 ways you can go about it. Like, the Kansas City Chiefs, because they went 11-6 last year, and you can be a really good football team. I wouldn't have called last year a really good football team your Philadelphia Eagles at 11-6. They finished the season the way they did. They looked horrible. I said it before, and I don't say it as a hot take because I did thoroughly believe it. I think they were the worst team in football when the season was ending last year. Now, they go into an offseason. You make some good things. You up some guys. You make Devontae Smith happy. You make A.J. Brown happy. Of course, Jalen Hurts should already be happy. You have that offense being what it is, and I think we're all okay on that. You bring back CJ, which is a good move. Good move, bringing him back. He had his best year ever at safety here with the Eagles a couple of years ago, so you bring him back for an attitude and all that. But am I missing something here about this defense? And I know it's going to go back to Vic Fangio, but they don't have a starting linebacker here yet. Like, they just don't. They're going to start some people. Devin White was benched last year. Nakobe Dean, you can't tell me, is a starting linebacker. You can go down that linebacker core. There's not really starters there. You have two younger players on the interior defensive line that you had major questions about. And I told you, Jordan Davis, I saw his football body rise to the heavens rise to the upper decks last year when he laid on the ground after trying to chase Josh Allen down, totally out of breath, laughing, because it was fun. He made a great effort there. But as he laid there smiling, I swear I saw his NFL football body leave him and go up into the stands to sit for the remainder of the season because we didn't really hear from him much anymore. Jalen Carter, questions abound. Where was he the last 6 weeks of the season? You're getting a 33-year-old Darius Slay that we're all saying, yeah, it's okay. It's all right. He'll be fine. Who are you going to start next to him? We don't know. Who's going to be your two starting safeties? We probably know that Reed Blankenship will be in there. Okay. But, man, you lost your best defensive player in Hassan Reddick. You replaced him with a guy that played 40% of the defense last year. You lost a Hall of Famer in Fletcher Cox, who played pretty well last year. Am I wrong to be like, I don't trust this defense at all right now? Does all the trust, Bill, have to go to, it's okay, under Vic Fangio, it's going to be better?
No. I mean, look, the upside is there when you look at the defense, not only because of Vic Fangio, but some of the pieces that they've added. There's upside, but there is no sure thing on that defense. In fact, me and Tyrone were having this conversation on the best show ever, and we were talking about the unknowns on the defense. And I asked him, well, are there any knowns? Are there any sure things on that defense right now? I don't think there is, because even Darius Slay is going to be 33 years old this season. So you don't know if he's going to be able to play at the same level. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, as much as we like him, hasn't been able to stay healthy. Then you look at that defensive line. We're all excited about Jalen Carter. I'm excited to see another year with Milton Williams and Jordan Davis. Those guys never had to play the amount of snaps they're going to be asked to play this season.
Right.
Edge rushers, same thing. You have Bryce Huff. We've never seen him play more than 50% of the snaps in a given season. We don't know if Nolan Smith's going to take that step forward. You look at the other cornerbacks. There's a lot of talent there, but no guarantees. So I'm excited to see what these guys can do, but there's certainly no sure thing. And listen to this, Bob. The Philadelphia Eagles have never gone to the NFC Championship game, ever, without having a top 10 defense. So a lot of people out there who say, oh, well, the offense is going to be so good it won't matter. They've never been to the NFC Championship game without a top 10 D.
You used a word there that I'm going to change for me. You said you're excited to see what happens with these guys. Cool. I'm going to change my word to I'm curious.
Probably a better word.
No, I don't think so. Like, you're excited. That's cool. I'm not going to take that away from you, and I think you're right. I'm just saying I'm dialing it down a little bit. I don't know. Like, all right, let me ask you this question. Is Josh Sweat, is Milton Williams, are those guys better with a guy like Hassan Reddick in the lineup?
Without a doubt.
Right?
I mean,
it's not even a question.
And you saw Josh Sweat last year, not only with Hassan Reddick, but the fact that they didn't have any other depth. Josh Sweat was forced to play over 800 snaps last year. And what happened the last 8 games of the season? The guy hit a wall. He didn't have a sack in any of those games because they didn't have the depth behind them. So now that's even with an Hassan Reddick. Now Hassan Reddick's not there anymore. So are you going to be leaning on Josh Sweat even more? And certainly it helps everybody across the D-line when you have a sure thing like Reddick. That's why I look at every move that Howie Roseman made this offseason, and I like so many of them. I just don't understand how you made your team better moving on from Reddick.
Yeah, I don't either. Your defense wasn't good last year, and you took away your best player. You let your best player go. I am really curious as to where this defense is going to be. I don't have a lot of trust in them right now.
No, and I know a lot of people may find this as a positive because of how bad the defense was, but I went through and looked at all of the pieces that probably won't be here this coming season who were here last year. I say probably because I'm including James Bradbury on this list. But the Eagles have to make up for close to 6,000 defensive snaps that they lost this offseason. And like I said, could be a positive because of how bad the defense was, but you're replacing them with guys who haven't played more than 3,000 snaps between all of them. I mean, you look at the rookies, they've obviously never played. But guys like Bryce Huff, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson last year, 187 snaps, can't stay healthy. Jalen Carter played the most, 560 snaps. But Fletcher Cox last year played close to 700. So all of these guys are going to be asked to take on bigger roles, and there's just no sure thing on that side of the football.
There isn't. And I'll tell you, it's a real concern for me. It's funny. I remember the first time I heard the word suspect used when describing something. It was my high school basketball coach, and he's kind of like evaluating. He goes, look, you're shooting fine, this, that. He goes, your ball handling, though, is still a little suspect, especially going to your left hand. I was like a freshman. I was like, I never heard that term before. I would label the defense I wouldn't even label the Eagles' defense as suspect. I label it lesser than that. Like, to me, it's a major, major concern, and one that I have doubts in. All right, Ray, you say we have a couple of text messages. You can text us, 610-632-0975, or give us a call now. Tell us how you're feeling about this Eagles team now that the schedule has been released. What do we got, Ray?
Bill in Utah checking in, wanted to break down a little bit of the schedule for you, so I appreciate him dropping in. He doesn't like the early bye. He thinks they get off to a great start, though. And he needs to figure out what game he's coming to, but he's got them at 13-4. A split with Dallas, a split with Washington. They lose to Baltimore, and they lose to either Pittsburgh or Cincinnati.
13-4. I think anybody would sign up for that right now, right?
Yeah.
I believe
considering
so.
You're curious about the defense. Bill's excited to see what they might be. I'd use the word anxious.
Anxious is
I'm
good.
even a step further from where you are, Bob.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe I shouldn't say curious. Maybe I should go. Maybe I should say like downright hell of a lot worried.
Concerned.
You know, like even over concerned. I just don't see it.
I'm with you, but I guess to try to provide some positivity.
Sure.
They won 11 games last year with a defense that was absolutely terrible. And I can't imagine that this defense is going to be as bad as they were last season. I think they'll be better. I'm not sure if they're going to be good enough to win a championship. We'll find that out as the season progresses. But you look at where they finished last season with this defense, they have to be better this year with a Vic Fangio and with some of the pieces that they've added. I just can't imagine they're that bad again. And if they were able to win 11 games, even playing that poorly last year, with a tougher schedule. I think last year's schedule was a lot more difficult. That's why I can see the predictions of the 12 or 13 wins. But, yeah, I do have some concerns on the defense as well. Are they good enough to win that championship? Because that's what we want.
Would you agree that they lost their two of their top 3 defensive players from last year?
Definitely. You mean in Reddick and Cox?
Yeah. Cox must have had a better year than I noticed, I'll have to say, because I did hear a lot of people talking about, he was one of the top 3 on the team. the numbers played out, and Bill talking to you through the weeks and months that we have and all. I just didn't notice it, but he was the fact that they played him over 700 snaps. That's crazy.
Fletcher Cox had a really good season last year. If he wanted to come back and play, even if the Eagles weren't interested, there would have been a ton of teams lined up because of how well Fletcher Cox played last year. That was the unfortunate thing with Kelsey and Cox both retiring, is both of them were still playing at a really high level.
Yeah.
But we have to hope that not only is Jalen Carter ready to step up and fill those shoes, but this is the year Jordan Davis has to be that difference maker.
Yep.
Milton Williams has to really take that leap forward. And Milton Williams is playing for a contract. I thought they would have given him one of these extensions. They haven't yet. So Milton Williams, this is a contract year for him, so hopefully he steps up as well.
Yeah, I have my eye on him. All right, Tim in Perky Omenville has been hanging on. Tim, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, Bob, how are you?
Great.
Hey, so I got a quick question for you. Do you think that this is a make-or-break season for Nick Sirianni?
It could be. Now, it has to go in certain ways. How do I put this? If they come out and look kind of clueless, Tim, in certain areas, like I would, that's how I would describe last year's team at the end of the season. They looked clueless, especially out there defensively. If there's signs of that, maybe.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I think what's frustrating for me, especially last year with Nick Sirianni, is like towards the end of the year when I look at him, for me, he's like Joe Biden of the Eagles. I don't know. I don't know what's up with this guy, but he just resembles Joe Biden to me.
All right, Tim. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Not sure exactly what that means.
Yeah,
but.
I've been a big defender of Nick Sirianni on this station. Some people have said he must be my cousin because how much I've defended him. But I will say it is a make-or-break year for Nick Sirianni. As much as I don't think the Eagles should have moved on from him last season because we were asking him to do something no one's ever done, which was go to a Super Bowl and then lose both of your coordinators and try to get back to next year. That's not easy to do. We've never seen it done in NFL history. With all of that being said, I felt like he deserved another shot this year. But if this season doesn't go well, if they don't make – I would think if they don't win a playoff game, and it doesn't look good like it didn't look good last year, I don't think Sirianni would be the coach in 2025.
Fair enough. Well, we have some text, Ray, also still about this Eagles team.
Keeping with Nick Sirianni, Mark checking in with us, Mark in PA, saying Sirianni is a 500 coach and overrated, underachieving with all that talent.
My first words are going to be fair enough. I don't.
Well, factually, it's wrong. I mean, factually, he's not a 500 coach.
No,
he's a 667 winning percentage. So, factually, it's incorrect.
Yeah, but after Doug Peterson had the 13-3 year, I was just like our texter saying, look, I believe in the long run he's going to be a 500 coach. Maybe Nick Sirianni will be that in the future going forward. Make or break year for Nick Sirianni. I guess so, right?
Yeah, I think it is. It's just when we say make or break, I guess the question, though, is what would be considered a make? Because we know how hard it is to win the Super Bowl. So I don't say, hey, if he doesn't win the Super Bowl, he's fired. I think he has to win a playoff game, and you just can't see the team look as clueless as you described it again this season. And I don't think they will. I'm expecting some really good things. I still truly believe that Nick Sirianni's a good coach in this league. I do.
All right, we got Ben on the line who disagrees with me. Ben, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good.
So, real quick, I just want to talk about the Eagles defense, and then I have a question about Ranger Suarez. So, on the Eagles defense, I have faith in them. I think one of the bigger issues with the defense was our secondary and the speed of them. Personally, when I was watching the games, I felt like a lot of the time our issue was that the ball was just getting thrown over our corners. They just weren't like near the targets for the receptions. So having the speed from Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, I know they're rookies and I can't expect them to make any plays on the ball or anything, but just having them be on the receivers more, I feel like is going to help our defense and just keep opposing quarterbacks from throwing the ball as fast, which will in turn help our defensive line get to them a little bit faster.
But Ben, do you see them starting?
I see Quignon, Mitchell starting. I don't know about Cooper DeJean. I think Mitchell just has he's got too much coming out of the draft for them not to start him. I just don't see anybody else in their cornerback room who has the speed, who has the skills.
I have no idea about his skills coming out of Toledo. I got to tell you.
Yeah, I can't speak on his skills necessarily, but I do think that he is going to be one of our better corners this year.
Okay. All right. What's your Ranger Suarez point?
So Ranger Suarez has been amazing so far this season, and the one question I have is if he is able to, and I phrase that as able to because nobody's going to be 100% through the season. Would he be in consideration for a Cy Young?
Absolutely. I mean, he's probably, thanks, Ben. Why wouldn't he be?
Yeah.
I mean, he's probably the leader in Cy Young right now with an 8-0 record, a one. What did he get down to last night? A
137.
37 ERA. Good job by you.
I was looking at the board before he left. If the season ended today, I think it would be him.
Yeah.
Easily. I know some people that are sitting on some tickets, quite thrilled with their belief in the guy before the season. That right now are looking at some nice payouts and getting very excited.
You?
No,
oh, okay.
No, not me. No, I know people on this one. This is a lot of people who are telling me, "Wow, you're an idiot for not tailing me on this one."
So, Ranger still doesn't have better odds than Zach Wheeler though to win the side.
Which again, I think is when you look at the sports book, I think that's faith in the long career of Zach Wheeler at that level because they don't want to lose out money on we didn't think Zach Wheeler would have himself a great season, and Zach Wheeler's having himself a fantastic season. It's just that Ranger Suarez has been one of the best pitchers in all of baseball to start this season. I think you could make an argument he's one of 2, 3 top in all of baseball, 8-0 with a 137 ERA. Like, I'm not a big wins guy, but the guys, they haven't lost to start the guys had, and he's got a 137 ERA. Last night he didn't look his best. Both of his runs were unearned.
I got to tell you, why all of a sudden in baseball over the last few years, wins don't matter for a pitcher? Really? Like, why? Because, what's his name? DeGrom won a Cy Young with, 9 wins. That's cool. He had a great season, and the team sucked behind him. I kind of like a guy that puts up 19 to 23 wins. I don't know why all of a sudden, it doesn't matter.
They don't let them
valued.
pitch as much either.
Yeah, it's valued in a different way. Like, I want my team to win. If the game's tied when the pitcher comes out, he went 7 innings of 1-run ball and doesn't get a win, versus the guy that gave up 4 runs and his team scored 10. Like the guy who pitched 7 innings and went 1-run ball at a better game.
I'm still dumb enough to look and say, wow, this guy must be good because he had 23 wins.
What did Tawan Walker have last year? 15?
Something like that.
Yeah, he was right there.
Yeah. Who was the best pitcher on the 2008 staff?
That would be, what's his face? Jamie Moyer.
No, it would be Cole Hamels.
No,
but
Jamie Moyer had 16 wins.
Yeah, I know. Trust me.
No, I know. It's funny. It does matter. Like, we can say, you can look at it the way he did and dive deeper into it. But, sometimes we need to keep it more simple. If I look at a guy and he went 23-4, I'm going to say, wow, he was pretty good.
Probably pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not going to go, well, wait, how many runs did the team score for him because he got those 23 wins? We know what a good pitcher is when a good pitcher is around.
So I agree with you when you could look at a guy and say he had 23 wins, he's good, but you can't necessarily look at a guy who only had 10 and say he's not good.
Yeah, sure. And that's why I didn't go there. You're exactly right on that one.
One pitcher that had 14 wins last year with a 2.25 ERA. Another pitcher with 15 wins that had a 4.38 ERA.
Yeah.
Okay. One of them's Taijuan Walker. The other one's Blake Snell.
Good point, Ray. Yeah. But I want to, when we get back, though,
Is that all Snell had? Was 14?
All he had was 14.
How about that?
When we get back, I wanted to address something else that Ben said on that call, though, about the Eagles' defense, because he said he has faith in that defense. And I don't know if there's anyone out there that could look at that defense and say that they have faith in it. Hope, maybe, that you're hopeful, but there are so many unknowns. Like I said earlier, I'm excited to see what the guys can do. But there's no one who could look at that defense and say, oh, yeah, they're going to be good.
Well, Ben had an agenda, and we saw what that was at the end of his call anyway. But, Ray, poll. Since we're talking Phillies right now, what is the poll that you have up, and where are we standing in said poll?
Yes, we put up this poll right before the show, so we want to get your guys' input on this one about the Phillies with the start that they have had. You can vote on @975 middays on Twitter. And the question that we are posing to you, the Phillies are currently on pace to win 114 games. The franchise's record for wins in a season is 102. Do you think that this team will break its franchise record for wins this season? So far, 54% of the people are saying we're breaking that record.
Wow.
46% saying no.
It is amazing. Ray and I were looking it up today. Philly's first year was 1883.
83.
The Phillies have had 3 seasons of 100 or more wins. And you can take this one to the bar, people, all right? I got the trivia question you can ask that is going to win you a beer, a drink at the bar. I asked Ray, what was the lowest amount of losses the Phillies had in a season? And he was like, oh, well, 103 has to go. Wait, before they played 162, and boom, he threw out a number. And I was like, no, dope. 2020, they only had 32 because they only played 60 games. They were below 500 team, but they only had 32 losses. I didn't call you a dope.
No, an idiot.
That was like your question about who's the best pitcher to never win a Cy Young.
That's right. That'll win you a drink every once in a while if somebody hasn't heard it, because that would be Cy Young. Okay, when we get back, we'll get to your calls here, 610-632-0975. A lot of people want to talk about this Eagles team. My faith in their defense is way low. Just not feeling it right now. Where do you sit on it? Bill Colarulo's here with us. Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Welcome back, everybody. 11:30 here. Middays, 97.5, The Fanatic. We do have a major going on also this weekend as the PGA Tour has the PGA Championship. And early start here this morning. Xander Schauffele is kicking butt. 6 under through 11. He started it through 11. Okay. Tony Finau right there at -4. And a bunch of other guys, blah, blah, blah. Tiger Woods 1 over on the day. He's only a few holes in. So for you golf fans out there, you're welcome for the update.
Let me ask you real quick before we move on from golf.
Go ahead.
Does Tiger Woods win another major in his life?
It's funny. There's a friend of mine who works for the Sixers, Alan Lumpkin, who is the biggest Tiger guy. Biggest Tiger. And when I was with the team and Tiger was, falling out of his prime but still had chances and all, we would always ask that question through the years. Has he got another one in him? He's out there practicing a lot yesterday, and people saying he looked really, really good. It's a shame. The guy is only 48 years old.
He looks a lot older, though, the way he walks around
The
now.
way if you just look at him, it's like, woo, that guy's still in really good shape. But you're right, Bill. The legs, the knees, the ankle, all of that stuff, the back that had to be fused. It's a shame. It's a shame.
And it happened to him at the Masters where he played well the first 2 days, and then he just can't keep up for that long of a tournament anymore. And that's why I would love to see him win another major. I just don't know if he's got it in him.
Yeah, I would love to have seen. I like to see dominant athletes stay healthy to see how far they could go. Whether some of this is his own doing. Of course, the accident was his own doing where he almost lost his leg. The speculation of other stuff that he may have done through his life that led to his body breaking down so much. But it is a shame. Tiger Woods became old before he should have been old.
Yeah.
He hit oldness at like 42. We know nowadays with the way guys train and stuff like that, 42 is the old 32. He could have played 20 more good years probably of competitive golf had his body not broken down and he not beaten it down.
Now, you said you like to see dominant players stay healthy to see how long they can be dominant. We haven't done a lot of Sixers talk today, but there's a guy who continues to be dominant even at 39 that I want to see here next year. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I just don't understand people that say, no, I hate that I bring up John. We do disagree on some things, and I don't say this in a bad way. But John's like, absolutely, you do not win a championship with LeBron James. I can't talk about sports in absolutes. I will say that if the Sixers don't sign 13 more players, they're absolutely not going to be any good with just throwing out there Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. But I can't say that. I can't say that you're not going to get the absolute best out of Joel Embiid if LeBron James is here. It would excite me to no end.
You can't talk in absolutes, and obviously it's extremely difficult to win a championship, but I think LeBron James here with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey is the closest thing you would get to a sure thing, because you're not getting a sure thing. But to me, you put LeBron on the court with those two guys, I don't care who the other pieces are. I think they're the favorites in the East.
There's just something different, okay? You can look at a LeBron James from afar and have your opinion and all that. I'll equate it to this, Bill, because I thought of this the other day. It's like when I was introduced to Michael Jordan, Doug Collins took me in a back room and introduced me to Michael Jordan when we were in Charlotte one time. And, so we all, the three of us stood there and had like a 10-minute conversation or whatever. I don't get in all of athletes or whatever. That's probably the closest, although I was probably closer with Larry Bird. But, that's the when you talk to somebody, and Michael Jordan standing there talking to you about his team, about the Sixers team, I'm sorry, my ears probably did perk up a little more than if I was talking to, like, Tyus Jones in Minnesota. It just did. I can't imagine a message isn't delivered in I don't want to say better, but in a different way when Joel Embiid hears it coming out of LeBron James's mouth every day. I'm sorry, it just does. People talking about, well, you need a facilitator here, and Trae Young was a name that they brought up on the morning show. No, I don't need two tiny little guards in my backcourt. I do not want Trae Young anywhere near this 76ers team. Well, he distributes. Okay. LeBron James averaged like 8 assists last year. Trae Young averaged a little over 10. I'll take that. If you look at LeBron James's numbers, even as a 39-year-old, 41% shooter from three, spreads a floor. A great distributor, Joel Embiid, still a very good rebounder, still a good outlet passer, someone who still can run the floor. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll take LeBron James any day of the week.
And you're citing his stats and the way he plays the game. I think the real problem is the name. The people who don't want LeBron James is because they're seeing the name LeBron James, and for whatever reason, they're convincing themselves, oh, we don't want LeBron James here. If you remove the name from the equation and you just look at the way he plays the game still at 39, all of his stats last season, what he did in the playoffs. I had people call me and Tyrone saying, oh, well, he disappeared in the playoffs. He played 41 minutes a game in the playoffs. He averaged, I forget what his points were, but it was up there. His assists were up there. His rebounds were up there. To me, he's the perfect piece, not only because he's LeBron James, he's the perfect piece for what this team needs to pair with your two superstars in Maxey and Embiid. I just don't get why people are saying, no, we don't want him. You can't win a championship with him. You absolutely can.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't. All right, let's just, I think off the top of my head, the last playoff game he played, and yes, they got ousted, and people can say, well, he hasn't won, a series, whatever. I'll just take him. But his last playoff game that he played this year, I believe, was 33 points, 11 assists, and 9 rebounds, something like that, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I still think he might have it in him. Stan's been holding on a while in Drexel Hill. Stan, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, Bob, what's going on, brother?
What's up, buddy?
Real quick, so with the Eagles, I know you guys, everybody's really skeptical about the defense, but don't we have Isaiah Rodgers coming back to play corner? Like, I know he was suspended all last season, but wouldn't that be like a bright side? Because we've been trying to figure out who's going to play opposite of Slay because of Bradbury and his, his down year. I felt like Isaiah Rodgers got a lot to prove, so I'm kind of ready to see what he does out there. So
yeah, it could be, Stan, and that's a great name that you.
About him.
No, I hear you, but it's still a question mark because you even had you said it.
Sure.
Could it be?
Sure. But real quick with the Sixers though, I absolutely agree with you with the whole LeBron thing. Listen, everywhere he's gone, they're going to the finals. So like to me, that's all I care about at this point. And you're telling me a LeBron James, even at 40, wouldn't be a significant, not even just a little bit, but a significant upgrade from Tobias Harris. You have LeBron James on the same squad last year. You're probably in the Eastern Conference Finals this year. So I don't want to hear about, I don't want LeBron because of his age and all that. He's still doing what he's doing at age 39, which is ridiculous. All right. For me, I know everybody's been having questions about the PG thing and, I don't want to bring him in because of his age. I'm only okay with it in a sense that you can sign him outright and you don't have to give up assets. I know people want Jimmy Butler, but that requires trading your assets for a guy who's older than Paul George. So for me, if you bring in a guy like PG, you can sign him outright and then use those other assets to trade for a guy like Alex Caruso. I don't know, man. I think I'll sign up for that. I come out the offseason with Caruso and PG. I think that's a team that can do something in the playoffs. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
No, Stan, a lot of people probably, thanks for the call, a lot of people probably agree with you. There's so many different things this team can do. We talked about it before, Bill. I think you were here when we did it, about whether you want fit or do you just go for best player available and then make it fit. I'm all about getting the best player you can. I think in sports, I'm sorry. I don't care if it's professional sports, if I'm on the playground. If I can sit there and choose the best player each time, if I'm picking out of the two, sorry, I'm going to choose the best one every time.
Yeah, I thought Tyrone said it best. He compared it to the Eagles when you have your draft board. You have the best player available on the draft board. Why would you skip over all of the top best players and say, no, we want to take this guy who's our 7th-ranked best player? It just doesn't make any sense. But that caller also mentioned Isaiah Rodgers, right? Talking about Isaiah Rodgers as the corner for the Philadelphia Eagles. I was excited about Isaiah Rodgers when they picked him up 2 years ago, and I thought he was very good when he was in Indianapolis. But you look at that cornerback room now, there's no guarantee he makes the team, Bob.
It's full, isn't it?
There's 14 cornerbacks in that room, and they're probably going to keep 7 of them. So when you look at who's going to be on this roster, I'm excited about Isaiah Rodgers, but he may not make the damn team.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's an exercise I want to do today with you. I had on here because the other day we went over the Eagles' defensive side of the ball as far as individuals, what do you expect, and we had a little exercise there, and I think it brought it down to, wow, there's not a lot of expectations that we have on that defensive side of the ball. There's a couple more I want to go over with you, and then I want to switch it to the offensive side of the ball to maybe put up some numbers. Let's look at numbers that we think players may put up. We'll have all that, a whole lot more. If you want to talk Sixers, Phillies, we're here for you. 610-632-0750. 0975. Bill's going to be here for the rest of the show. I'm Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Welcome back as we approach the noon hour. Thanks for being with us. Hope you're having a great Thursday. Hope you're having a great week and maybe have super plans for the weekend as it's getting there. It's coming, Bill. Summertime. Can't wait. It's my favorite time of the year. We got Memorial Day coming up, not this weekend, but next weekend. That means pools are getting opened, all of those fun things.
Summer used to be my favorite time of year, but as I got older, it's the fall now because football season's back. I love the weather. You get that smell of fireplaces in the air. I like that.
Now, I'm a summersman. I mean, I do love when I think I love every time of the year. And I told you that my year is run by the sports calendar, which is weird, but I do. I love every time of the year. I love the summertime. I love being outside. It's the quiet time of sports, but that's how I get through it, is just being outside as much as I can and sweating. I love sweating. All right, when we coming up in the noon hour, we got some vibes going on in this show. That's right. Ray Dunn sent me a text last night. He goes, "Hey, I'm not sure where we stand on W&Ls," and I'm like, I'm not huge on that. Like, we could talk about the hard part of the schedule, the easier part of the schedule, and we'll do more of that on the show today. And you can join in on what you think of the Eagles' schedule, 610-632-0975. But Ray sends me a text. He goes, "I'm not going to do W&Ls, kind of. I just have vibes." I said, "All right, dude, noon hour is all you." So at 12 o'clock, Ray's going to give us his vibes. So you might want to get the incense. You might want to get, some candles, light them up, whatever you're comfortable in doing for a vibe session. We will have that for you at noon. Also, at 1 o'clock, Matt Breen from Inquire.com is going to be joining us to talk all things Philadelphia sports. All right, this Phillies team, I find them more and more fascinating. Oh, you know what? Somebody wants to still talk Eagles. Let me go to Chris in Allentown to talk his faith in the Eagles defense. Chris, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Yo, Bob, what up, brother? How you doing this afternoon?
Doing great. How about you, buddy?
Man, I am so excited about this upcoming season. I'm telling you, we are 13-3 going into this season. We are Super Bowl and bust. And when you say,
so what happens in the 17th game?
We don't need to be up. Did I say 13-4?
I'm teasing you, buddy. I'm only kidding.
Thanks for correcting me. Hey, listen, though, when we say faith and hope in this defense, I'm telling you right now, you can put your money on it today. 7th overall, 7th or better defense ranked in this league this year, especially with the schedule that we have. There is nobody out there that scares me. With the linebacking core, with Vic Fangio being there, we don't have Gannon. We don't have to talk about Davis. We don't have to talk about Desai. We don't have to talk about any of the. We've got a 40-year vet in Vic Fangio coming in, running our defense this year. This defense is going to be lights out. We have not seen
Chris, hold on. Chris, let's have a real. I'm not putting you down. That's cool. But you said like linebacking core. We have a linebacking core. Who's the linebacking core?
Well, the Kobe Dean.
Come on, Chris. Nakobe Dean. Let's talk honestly here. Chris, Nakobe Dean hasn't done jack crap in 2 years of NFL play. How can you say that that's going to be a good thing, realistically?
Because it's his third year in the season. Third season in the league. I'm telling you, if he stays healthy, he is going to be lights out. Trotter Jr., he has been bred for this. He's a
5th-round draft pick.
I understand that, but he is bred for this, and it's not always about your size, your weight, your stuff. It's about how smart you are on the field. And then you got White coming in. That's another guy. We've got.
It's a guy that was benched by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year.
That's okay.
Like Chris, I'm not being a downer, but you got to be more of a realist.
Oh, I am real. Like I thought, I am not bullish. I'm never bullish. I always wait for like the first game of the season. I'm not going to make any predictions. I want to see how they play. I feel so strong about this football team, stronger than I've ever. Even the 2004 season with T. Like you know what I mean? Like I feel so strong about this team after seeing the schedule and seeing the defense that we have. We're going to have a top 3 offense, and we're going to. I'm telling you right now, another bet you can put on: we beat Cowboys both times.
All right, Chris, I love your optimism. I'm more of a realist. Like I'm not going to put down Chris because that's his excitement. I love it. Come September 6th, I'm going to be pumped. I can't wait for the Eagles season to start every year, just like everybody else. I'm a realist, though. I don't think Chris was being real there, and I wanted him to dial it back a little bit just to kind of give us some reality there. But that's okay. His excitement has overtaken it.
Yeah, I love the excitement from Chris, but there's no one who could sit here and look at the linebacker core and say, Nakobe Dean's going to be a stud. First of all, you said if he stays healthy. He hasn't been able to stay healthy in 2 seasons, but we still don't know if he can play at the NFL level. I'm hopeful. I want to see him be the guy he was at Georgia when he was the alpha on one of the best defenses we've ever seen in college football, but you don't know. And then to say Jeremiah Trotter, he was a 5th-round rookie. Yeah, I'm hopeful. And then you go to Devin White. Yeah, there's a reason why he signed a 1-year deal here, a 1-year prove-it deal. So we're all hopeful that these guys are going to be good, but there's no one. And, Chris, I love the positivity, man, but you can't look at the linebacker crew and say they're going to dominate. We just don't know.
I mean, let me put that question out there then. That'll be the question that we go with for the 12 o'clock hour. Suspect is too easy of a word for me when it comes to describing this Eagles defense. I'm overly worried about it. I don't think I'm being negative. I think Chris was being overly positive, maybe even not realistic. I think I'm being realistic when I say I have huge concerns about this Eagles defense. Do you agree with me? Can you come back at me and say, no, Bob, you got this, so you shouldn't be so concerned about it? I think it's obvious. I'm surprised that more people, I don't want to say are looking at it the way I look at it, because that to me sounds egotistical, but where are you? Are you more like Chris when it comes to this Eagles defense that, it's going to be a top 7, not a lot to worry about? Or are you more like me where I think it's I don't want to say grave concern because that's too much, but I'm telling you, it is a real concern for me right now. I don't think it's a good side of the football at all right now.
And you're not wrong. And again, there is a lot of upside for the defense. But Chris also mentioned Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on the back end. He's another player who, when he's on the field, is very good. Barely played last year in Detroit. Got hurt the year before when he was here in Philadelphia. You look at the other safeties on the roster. Reed Blankenship hasn't been able to stay healthy for 17 games. Sidney Brown tore his ACL in Week 18 last year. And then if you're hopeful, Cooper DeJean can play a little safety. He's a rookie. As excited as I am for Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean and even Jeremiah Trotter Jr., there's no guarantee that they're going to be able to contribute in a big way as a rookie. Jalen Carter last year, who is a generational talent, hit that rookie wall. So to just assume that all these guys are going to be big contributors in their first year in the league, it's a lot of question marks on that defense, Bob. You're not wrong.
Yeah, so where do you stand? Where do you stand on the Eagles defense? 610-632-0975. Is it something that's going to hold this team back from being that 10, 11, 12? We're hearing a lot of 12-5 predictions out there. Is the defense good enough for that? I have my questions. I don't think it is right now. Also, Ray's vibes are coming up. Get yourselves ready. Zen yourself. Get yourself in that nice place that you like to go, because Ray and his vibes will be coming out at 12 o'clock. That's right. Bill's going to be here with us until 2. I'm Bob Cooney, middays 97.5 The Fanatic. An hour here on Middays. Bill Colarulo joining us. Ray Dunn producing as always. Now, Chris, where was Chris from again? Chris from Allentown. He called, and man, the excitement in that guy's voice for an Eagles season is terrific. I love it. I don't necessarily agree at all with a lot of things he said, but I love his excitement. He was overly exuberant about what this Eagles team is going to be. Specifically, the defense is going to be great. I'm sorry, guys, I can't go there. I'm really, really concerned about this Eagles defense right now for all of the reasons we've stated. I just don't see it. It was funny. Tyrone just came into us, Bill, and said, all right, what do you guys got? He's got the one-loss record in his hand. I don't really do that. I see them as like a, 10, 11 win team, something like that. I don't trust this defense right now. That could change. Maybe we see something different from this defense moving forward.
Yeah, and the caller, Chris, everything he said kind of in definitive. Like, they're definitely going to do this. They're definitely going to do that. But what he's saying is possible. That's what we're kind of saying here is there's just no guarantees. But could Nakobe Dean be a stud at linebacker? Absolutely. Could Devin White bring back his career and show everyone in the league why he was worthy of the top 5 pick in the draft? Sure he could. Could Jeremiah Trotter Jr.? Yeah. He said he was bred for this. Could he step in as a rookie and contribute? Of course. But it's just to assume all of that's going to happen is the issues that I have. But even with all of that being said, even with all of the question marks on the defense, when you go through this schedule, and I do like doing the W's and L's, I still have him at 13 wins this year.
Yeah, we'll do it. We're going to do it later on. I'll let you give your W and L's for each specific game. Like I said, I just kind of look at it more in the big picture kind of way. So I don't really, whatever. I'll do it today. I don't care. But there's another way of going about this. And it's not necessarily the over-exuberance of what we had earlier, but it's more in a calming way, in a vibes way. And that's how Ray Dunn is going to give us his prediction on the Eagles' schedule for this coming season.
No football in this, okay? I want to be very clear. The football part of this, we'll get back to the football in a few moments. This is just strictly the gut. The feeling of the vibe.
Vibes.
Going into that game.
Vibes.
We'll take you through each of the games for the W's and L's here. The first one, I'm sorry to everyone to start out this way. They're going down to Brazil, and they're not winning in Brazil. The vibe of that game is just incredibly off. The Packers you lose the Packers home game, we're going to be complaining about that one all season. That just feels like a game where we're going to complain that they had that game taken away from them at Lincoln Financial Field and put in Brazil. I brought it up earlier. Apparently the Packers, very, very popular in Brazil. I don't like the way that one shakes out for the Birds. They lose their first game of the season.
Bad vibe.
Bad vibe on that one. You know, it's a great vibe. Kirk Cousins on a primetime game. And that might have a little bit too much of football to do with this, but really they win game 2. There's no way in the world that Falcons team is coming up here, the home opener on Monday Night Football, especially the way that place is going to be packed and amped up after they lost to Green Bay to open the season. They're winning game 2. They will win that second game. Great vibe. Now, I have to say, with the way the preseason goes, these teams don't play. You always expect an early season clunker. And it might just be because I'm planning on having such a great time down in New Orleans and that I don't think it's going to go well for the team in that game. If I see an early season clunker, there's a bad vibe for me in the New Orleans game because it's just one of those games. You always have to anticipate them losing an early season. Last year, the Jets, they lose that game. They had no business losing that game. They lost it to a bad team. You lose it to a bad team in that Saints team.
Clunky vibe.
Yeah, not great. They start 1-2. There's no way they go into the bye 1-3. They beat the Buccaneers soundly. The revenge game, revenge factor is absolutely there for them. So they're 2-2 going into the bye, which perfectly lines up with the questions of, all right, what's Sirianni doing? They're 2-2. They probably should be at least 3-1 right now, and we're questioning him for 2 weeks leading into that. Bill, I see you're questioning the vibe here.
I was just about to ask you before you brought up Nick Sirianni. When they're 1-2,
absolutely.
How loud is the noise in this city about Nick Sirianni?
Very loud. It's going to be very loud, which is why there's no way they're going to get off to the perfect 4-0, even the 3-1 start. This is going to be a 2-2 team coming in the bye, and we're going to spend 2 weeks talking about Nick Sirianni's job.
So it's going to be a Sirianni vibe after the 4 games.
Yeah, and
Probably not a good one.
Yeah, and probably after week 1, if they lose to the Packers, it's probably going to be a wow. Would you rather have Love than? I think we're also going to have that conversation. I feel like that conversation comes up.
All right.
Now, you never pick your team to lose after the bye week, so there's no way I'm going to pick them to lose to the Cleveland Browns.
Concrete vibe.
You just really feel like you're going to win after the bye, so that gets them at 3-2 already. I mentioned revenge for Tampa Bay, revenge for Saquon Barkley going up to New York. They didn't even try and offer him. There's no way they're losing that game. Saquon is going to do his best Boston Scott impression, and they are going to absolutely dominate the Giants up there.
Revenge vibe.
Yeah, it's going to be wonderful. One of the games I'm most uncertain, I don't have a great feeling on, but I think they're going to pull it out, is the Bengals game. I feel like this is the kind of game that we all look at, like, oh, they're going to Cincinnati, that Bengals team, Joe Burrow. Like, this is a game that we would probably chalk up as a loss. They're going to surprise us in a positive way at one point.
Okay.
I think the surprise comes there against the Bengals.
All right,
I think
surprise
they pull that one
vibe,
off.
but we got you on that one.
So we're going to go with another W there. That gets them to 5-2. Jacksonville comes in here, and I'll be honest with you. It has nothing to do with Doug Peterson, nothing to do with the fact that I think Trevor Lawrence is overrated. If you find yourself picking your team to lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars, ever, I think that's a pack-it-in type moment for you as a fan. You should probably reevaluate your team, reevaluate what you want out of that season.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's a pack-it-in type game.
Okay.
Everyone sees the Jaguars, and you can't tell me that your first instinct, they could be coming off of a 14-win season. Your first instinct as a fan is to say, yeah, they're going to beat the Jaguars.
I'd call that a confident vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. They're beating
All
the
right.
Jaguars. Then a slide happens. They go to Dallas in Week 10. Dallas has to win one of those two games. They
muddy
split.
vibe.
They split with the Cowboys. I
Okay.
think Dallas wins in Dallas.
All right.
Then you get a short week. We're already frustrated about Dallas.
Don't say it.
Oh, I'm going to say it.
No, you aren't.
Yeah, listen, they've
This is an asinine vibe.
They've stuck with the Eagles like crazy, all right? The Commanders are the team that bothers me so much because they shouldn't stick with you. They're going to stink this year, but they're going to give us one game where we freak out. I'm going to take them splitting with the Commanders. So they end up losing that game in Week 11. So they were at 5-2. They're 5-4. We're all freaking out again. Another game here that I absolutely love is going out to L.A. They absolutely pants McVay.
Wow.
This organization owns Sean McVay.
Okay.
There is no way in the world that the Rams pull one over on the Eagles, no matter where that game's played.
So it's a deep pants vibe.
Sure, if that's what you want to go with.
Okay, that's all I heard.
They're going to beat the Rams 100%.
All right.
1,000%.
Okay.
They lose to Baltimore.
Oh, that's a crabby vibe.
Yeah, I don't like that one at
I
all.
didn't say crabby. Get it?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, because
Crabs and bones.
yeah,
Right.
good stuff from you.
Thank you.
So they lose that game. I don't like the matchup. I don't like going down to Baltimore. It's not something I'm about.
Okay.
Panthers also fit in with my conversation about the Jaguars, especially now. If you pick your team to lose to the Panthers, it's kind of a pack-it-in moment for your season. If you really think they're going to lose to Carolina, you don't actually like this team at all.
That's an overconfident vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's something that's going to come through. They're going to beat the Panthers.
Okay.
Pittsburgh. So this is interesting. This is late season Mike Tomlin. And I don't think this Steelers team is good enough to be like the 11-12 win team, which means at that time they're going to be battling for 500, and the guy does not go sub 500. Bill earlier tried to talk me into this whole gauntlet that they've got going on in Pittsburgh.
Tried to?
Well, he was mentioning it. They have a tough stretch. The
It's
Steelers
a
have to win.
ridiculous stretch.
They have to win a game in there somewhere. They have to. Mike Tomlin has to finish above 500. It's actually written in the NFL rules. So they will beat the Eagles.
Oh, my God. That's an anti-gauntlet vibe.
Well, I mean, they have to win one game there.
Wow.
Mike Tomlin has to go over 500. It's an NFL rule.
I don't like that at all. Okay.
And then they just roll off the last three games. They can't lose both to Washington. They have to split with Dallas. And the Giants, they're going to sweep them because the Giants suck. And
I call that a chesty vibe.
yeah, no, we're all going to be freaking out after the Pittsburgh loss. What does it mean for this team? They win 3 straight. And I think I got them at 11-6.
Come on, don't think. You should have it all down there.
11-6.
11-6. Bill?
Strictly off the vibe of the game, 11-6.
The vibesman has spoken in Ray Dunn. 11-6, he has it. We'll let you go down your list and say how much different maybe you are than Ray, or maybe there's a lot of similarities.
A lot of differences with Ray, because I'm not a vibes guy. I like to look at stats. I like to look at the players.
He's an in-the-trenches guy,
Yeah,
you
that's a
vibesman.
lot of thought. That's a lot of thought.
I'm
I
not a
wouldn't put
vibes
that
guy.
much thought into it.
I like that, Bill. I'm not a vibes guy.
So I don't love the Brazil game. I wish that was here in Philadelphia. But I have the Philadelphia Eagles going to Brazil and beating the Green Bay Packers. I just think with the way the season ended last year, I think the team is going to be ready to play in week 1. And I know this can cut both ways, but I'm looking at it as an advantage for the Eagles. No one will have seen the Kellen Moore offense with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. And I think the Eagles are going to come out and surprise a lot of people with their new offense, the new motion, everything they're going to have going. They're going to have to figure out how to shut down Jordan Love and now Josh Jacobs on the Green Bay Packers. But I think they win that game. It's going to be a close one, but I have them winning that game. I then have them coming home for the first game at Lincoln Financial Field. You said this. I agree with you, Ray. Kirk Cousins, prime time. Eagles, 3rd year in a row, taking him on in prime time in week 2. Eagles win that game. So I have them winning the first 2. However, I have them going to New Orleans, and I think you said this was going to be their first clunker. I agree with Ray. Short week, coming off of a Monday night against the Falcons at home, going to New Orleans. It's a tough place to play.
Bourbon Street.
I think straight up, under normal circumstances, if there wasn't any other factors, Eagles beat the Saints. They're the better team, but I have them losing that game. But then they bounce back in a big way, get revenge against the Tampa Bay Bucks for what happened in the wild card. I think it'll be more similar to what happened in week 3 last year. So I have them going into the bye at 3-1. Coming out of the bye, I have them beating the Cleveland Browns. I don't think Deshaun Watson is that good. I don't think he'll ever get back to the guy he was in Houston. I have them winning that game. I have them winning Saquon Barkley's homecoming to MetLife Stadium up the Turnpike. So now they're at 5-1. But unlike Ray, I don't see them winning in Cincinnati against a Joe Burrow-led Bengals team. I think the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be very good this season. So now they're 5-2. Coming home, they beat Doug Peterson and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So now I have them at 6-2. I do think they split with the Dallas Cowboys, so I'm going to have them losing in Arlington, Texas, dropping to 6-3. Short week, Thursday night. Could be a trap game, but I don't think the Commanders are going to be very good this season. They win that one. I think they go on the road and they beat the Los Angeles Rams. We saw them do it last season. I think they're going to do it again this season. Sunday night game in L.A. So now they're 8-3. Losing to Baltimore the following week. And then this is where things should get very easy. Shouldn't say very because Dallas is mixed in there, but I think a lot easier on this next few games. They got the Carolina Panthers win, Pittsburgh Steelers win, Washington Commanders win, Dallas at home because I think they split with them. They win that one. And then the last game of the year may not matter, but if it does, they win that one as well. I got the Philadelphia Eagles going 13-4 this season.
Interesting. When you break down a schedule, I always look at it this way. How are they going to do it in the 6 games against divisional opponents? So I think we can all pencil in like a split at best with the Cowboys. Not at best, but a split with the Cowboys. And then I think they lose one game either against the Giants or the Commanders. So that puts you at 4-2. So my question to you guys is, and here's how I look at schedules. If I were to tell you or ask you, give me a record of these away games at the Bengals, at Dallas, at L.A., at Baltimore. That's 4 games. Are you looking best bet 2-2 or most probably 2-2? Or do you guys look at that differently?
Now, I think if they go 2-2 in those 4 games, I'd be happy because I actually have them going 1-3 in those 4.
All right, Ray, if I were just throw that out there, like I'm not telling you to look at your L's and all that stuff, but just knowing the teams, who they are and all of that, the Bengals at the Cowboys, at L.A., and at Baltimore. If you're not looking at the schedule, and I gave that to you yesterday, and I said, are you cool going 2-2 on those 4 road games?
I would be.
Is 1-3 more probable than 3-1?
It's plausible. But I don't know if it's more probable. I mean, we're also talking about, like, and this is the fun thing about W's and L's, if we want to get into football guy conversation here. We don't know what's going to happen with these teams when we get down to it. You know,
That's
you
true.
can see these teams late this season. It could be totally different for you. So, yeah, I mean, 1-3 is a plausible outcome. Splitting 2-2 on the road, if you believe you've got a good playoff quality team, that's probably where I would think that they would go, splitting 2-2 amongst those opponents.
Here, you know what surprises me, though? You're talking about the NFC East and all those teams. You look at the Dallas Cowboys, and before free agency and the draft happened, the Eagles and the Cowboys had the same odds to win the Super Bowl, the same odds to win the NFC East. The Eagles go out and do all of the things that they did in free agency. Cowboys really didn't do anything. They both still have identical odds to win the Super Bowl and win the NFC East.
Doesn't it seem like that happens a lot recently? Like the Eagles and the Cowboys are kind of right there. Now, the Cowboys are always going to get positive numbers because of their fandom, I should say, throughout the country. Right, Bill?
Yeah, and I think that's probably why they do it. But I look at that Cowboys team, and, yeah, they still have a lot of weapons. Just turned my mic off.
I was going to say, I thought mine was broken.
No, I just turned it off by accident trying to grab my notes. But you look at the Cowboys, and they still do have a lot of weapons, but they lost a lot of pieces. They lost 2 of their starting offensive linemen. They lost their starting running back. They lost their starting corner. They lost their defensive coordinator in Dan Quinn. So you look at that, and I know Mike Zimmer's got a lot of experience. He's going to probably be a decent D coordinator, but they had to bring in running back Zeke Elliott. They had to bring him back. I'm not sure. When we talk about, to Ray's point, teams may be hitting their stride late in the season. I'm not sure. Are the Cowboys going to be that good this season? They did lose a ton. They got to hope that Tyler Guyton, the lineman they drafted in the first round, can step in and play. If not, the Eagles may be able to put some pressure on Dak Prescott this year.
Yeah, here's hoping. And Vic Fangio defense, as we've heard and as we know, and Bill, you've pointed out a lot, it's really not one that is prime on getting to the quarterback. It's almost like getting to the quarterback is a secondary thought or a, how should I word it, just a kind of a happening by what they're running defensively. I don't know. I don't have a lot of confidence in this Eagles defense right now. Where are you with it? Where are you specifically? We're going to talk about this right now. Call 610-632-0975. Where are you on the Eagles defense? Now, Ray and Bill just gave their wins and losses. They went up and down the schedule. I look at the schedule. I have them somewhere between 10 and 12 wins. That's how I'll put what I am. You know, like I just, this defense, I don't know about. Like we had, Bill, you used the word possible or something, I think, when you were downplaying what the guy Tom said earlier. Was it Tom? Said
Chris,
I'm sorry, said earlier. I would even downplay that to hopeful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, I think if fans are being honest with themselves about this Eagles defense, they're hopeful. Yeah, anything's possible. You're right. You're exactly right on that. But I would even, like, I'm downplaying words today as far as the Eagles defense. I think if you're being honest with yourself, and I don't think Chris was really being honest with himself, his excitement has taken over, which is cool. I love that. I don't mind it. I'd love to sit and have a beer with Chris and talk about it. I just don't think that's real right now.
No, and we've seen it in the past. In 2017, Howie Roseman went out, and every single move he made before that season hit. But then you look at last season, and how many of us convinced ourselves that Nick Morrow was going to be a great linebacker, Greedy Williams was going to be a great cornerback, Rashad Penny was going to take this offense to the next level? It doesn't always work out that way. And then middle of the season, the Colts cut Shaq Leonard. Eagles got to pick him up. We all convinced ourselves. They're going to get Shaq Leonard, and that's going to fix this defense. Didn't work. So, yes, there's a possibility that every single move that they've made this offseason or every decision they've made this offseason when it comes to the defense is going to work out. But we're just asking for a lot of ifs to become reality along every position on defense. There is not one position on that defense where you could look at it and say, yeah, we're okay there. Possible, but no guarantee.
Yeah, and that's where I am. That's why I am so concerned about this Eagles defense. I don't like it right now. I just don't. Too many questions over possibilities in my head. Now, we do have some good news here. Not that we had bad news before, but we have some good news. And, Ray, I'll let you talk about it. Some NBA news about the Philadelphia 76ers, in particular, Tyrese Maxey.
Yes, Tyrese Maxey won the NBA's Sportsmanship Award for the 2023-24 season. So that's very nice.
That is very nice. Sportsmanship.
That's voted on by the players, right?
Guess that means he has a good smile.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
nice.
Yeah, nice guy.
Didn't get a lot of technical fouls.
If it's voted on by the players, it's wonderful to see that hey,
He's
players
liked.
like him around the league. Maybe, like a LeBron James enjoys, what he brings to the table.
I already tweeted at LeBron. I sent him the Sixers sharing that Tyrese won the sportsmanship.
Did you?
Yeah,
Did he get back to you yet, or
Not yet.
usually you
I'm
wait
sure. Yeah, he's probably just waking up on the West Coast.
Yeah. No, he's already put in like a 2-hour workout. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, man, he's got to get back to titles. Come
Yeah.
on, he's working hard right now.
Yeah, LeBron doesn't rest.
Now, in basketball, sportsmanship award, that's fine. But it always threw me off when in hockey you'd win like the Lady Byng Award as the, what was it? The player who has exhibited the best type of sportsmanship and gentlemanly conduct combined with a high standard of playing ability. That's the Lady Byng Memorial. And it always goes to the guy who has like no penalties all season. I don't know if I want a Lady Byng winner on my team.
He stood in the handshake line. He enjoyed. Hey,
He was first.
Yeah, exactly.
He went back for seconds in the
That's
handshake
right.
line. That's why.
But
Yeah, that's how
basketball,
he
I'm
won that.
okay with it. Hockey, nah. I don't want a Lady Byng winner on my team.
Yeah, Lady Byng winners are the guys with all their teeth. They just look around the league and say, yo, those real or fake? Oh, no, I got all my chiclets. Hey, congratulations. You're a Lady Byng winner.
But although I say that, one of the finalists this year, Austin Matthews from the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I would take him every day of the week.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, he scores goals and he doesn't hurt anybody. Probably Gretzky won it a few times. He wasn't going around hurting
I
anybody.
think Yager won it a few times.
All right, when we get back, a lot more to look at with this Eagles team. I have the question out there for you. Want you to answer it now at 610-632-0975. Where is your level of concern with this Philadelphia Eagles defense? You did it. I know you did, just like Bill, just like Ray did. You got the schedule either last night or this morning, and you did your W's and you did your L's. Did the defense make you put a couple more L's than you wanted to? Because I look at that as a huge concern for this team right now. Give us a call. Let us know what you think, or text us, 610-632-0975. This is Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Welcome back, Middays. Thanks for being with us. Hope you're having a good Thursday. Get ready for the weekend. It's coming. Don't worry. You get through today. Everybody can plow through a Friday. A lot of you are lucky enough to be able to work at home on Friday, so we're getting close. We are getting close. Congratulations to Tyrese Maxey. As we just announced, he won the Joe Dumars Award for sportsmanship in the NBA. Always nice to win awards, good guy awards, stuff like that. And Bill had a good point. Do you really want to win a good guy award if you're playing like hockey? If you're a defenseman in football? Probably not. Probably if you're any player in football. But, Ray, we have a couple of texts. We had a lot of Eagles talk earlier. You and Bill both did your one loss. We had that little kid come here. What's his name? The guy that we call positive. Who was that? Josh?
Josh, yeah.
Yes, he comes in and goes, come on, Bob. Why can't you have some fun and give your W's and L's? Positive Josh was about to get knocked on his ass, and he didn't even realize it. I said the Eagles were going to win between 10 and 12 games. That's all.
What Josh has to realize is you're talking to a guy who wouldn't even tell us who was going to win the Sixers-Knicks series.
That's different. He didn't tell us who was going to win Sixers and Knicks because he was going to pick the Knicks.
Well, now he can say
So
that.
No, I'm not saying a word.
No.
Nope.
I could tell. I haven't worked with him a long time, but I could tell how fidgety he was.
Wait, hold on. We call him Ray Knickerbocker, and Bob was going to pick the Knicks?
Yes. He was going to pick the Knicks. He was so fidgety about that series. You could feel the build-up to that, too. Coming towards the end of the season, he was looking at the seeding. He's like, oh, I really don't want to play the Knicks. Really don't want to play the Knicks. Really don't want to play the Knicks. The Knicks series happens. He all of a sudden stops giving out any predictions.
Are you making fun of me?
What was Bob's word today?
Was I wrong?
Suspect?
Was I wrong?
There's not suspect. He was going to pick the Knicks. He just was dodging it.
I'll just say this. I wasn't going to pick the Sixers.
See, he wasn't avoiding predictions to avoid predictions. He was avoiding predictions because in his head he's like, yeah, the Knicks are winning this series, but I'm not going to be that guy.
I'm not. Yeah, I don't want to be. Like, look, I want to hold out hope. I don't want to turn any listeners away. I don't want to say, yeah, sorry, I think the Knicks are winning this series against the Sixers, and somebody say, screw you, and turn the dial. I want to say that I'm nervous about that series. I didn't like the matchup. I said it before we even knew the Knicks were the matchup. So I'm not saying I was right on anything. I'm just saying that's how I felt.
Nobody's spiking the football for you.
Yeah, I don't want to turn people off by saying, nope, Sixers going to lose first round. That I just had concerns about the series, and I wasn't going to lie and say, I tell you guys all the time, I wasn't going to lie and say I thought the Sixers were going to win the series. I tell you guys all the time, and there's a bunch of us here that I think you could wake us up in the middle of the night and ask us our sports feeling on something. It's not going to change because that's our true belief, right? When you start making things up, when you start just throwing stuff out there or hot takes and all that stuff, you're not being truthful with yourself, and you're going to eventually come back and bite yourself in the ass because you're not telling the truth. I'm not going to lie to the people, so I didn't fully come out and say, yeah, the Sixers aren't going to win. I just didn't say that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and I also teased you for this during the series. Every time that we were talking about a prediction, or anytime I was listening to you on the extended pre-games, in my head I was like, yep, Bob thinks they're losing tonight.
I didn't like that matchup. I know. Just where it was. But we're talking a lot of Eagles today. Like I said, Ray and Bill both did their L's and W's. And Ray, you finished at 11-6.
I did.
And Bill was a lot higher at 13-4.
Yeah, I'm at 13-4, and a lot of it is we kind of already knew that this was going to be a more favorable schedule because if you look at the opponents they're playing this year, at least on paper, and again, this is all on paper, the schedule's a lot easier. Even before you knew the when and the where and all that, you knew who the opponents were, and it's not as difficult. You don't have to play the 49ers. You're not playing the Detroit Lions. You're not playing the Kansas City Chiefs this year. So I think it's a lot easier of a schedule simply based off of the opponents. So it did fall out pretty well. I don't love the bye week, but I have them going 13-4. Maybe a little bit of a homer leaning towards 13-4, but I do see them winning a lot of games.
It's funny looking at the schedule. There was nothing that made me go, ooh, that's tough. Nothing really.
What you did last year. You remember last year, we all looked at that schedule and said, oh, my God, what are they doing to the Eagles?
Yeah, that was tough last year. But no, this one doesn't give me any, oh, God.
You know what my favorite part of this schedule, though, is? We don't get our 7 fishes dinner ruined on Christmas Eve. All the Italians out there know what I'm talking about. 2 years ago, right in the middle of the 7 fishes, you had to watch the Dallas Cowboys beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Ruined it. We don't have to worry about Christmas Day explaining to our kids why we can't play with their toys or getting in arguments with our family as to why we can't do dinner at certain times. So we avoid, finally, for the first time in 3 years, our Christmas getting ruined by the holidays.
Brutal holidays last 2 years.
It's funny. At first, when you look at, or at least me, when I look at stuff like that, I'll be like, oh, cool. That's going to add to the goodness of the holiday. No, win or lose, it takes away from the goodness because you have to devote 3 hours away. Not away from, but, yeah, it's hard. I agree with you, Bill. I'm glad
that's
that
a big
no
win.
longer have that.
My North Jersey family was down for Christmas this year. So it was Eagles-Giants on Christmas with the Giants fans. And I had to listen to them talk about, wow, we're really sticking in this game with the Eagles. It was terrible. It was awful.
Terrible.
Now, are you guys officially 7 fishes? Like it's definite? Because we have my wife's side of the family full Italian. We get together every Christmas Eve. It's not specifically 7 fishes, but it is seafood themed.
So sometimes I think we cheat the 7 fishes because we'll include shrimp.
Yeah.
We'll include some things that are seafood based. But yes, every year there's at least 7 seafood items on the table.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Ray, we have some texts about this Eagles conversation that we have been having so far today. And a reminder to the listeners out there, give us a call now. I don't believe in this Eagles defense right now. I call them more than suspect. I am very, very concerned about it. And, yes, it's a reason why I say between 10 and 12 wins, 12 being high. I think this defense might cost them a couple of games. What do you think? Ray, what do the texters say?
Dane from Philadelphia saying defense has got to show me they're better at tackling, getting off the field on third down and red zone before I start giving out this is going to be a top 10 defense. Let it play out before we start anointing praise. I'm still trying to wash my eyes from the terrible defense we watched last season.
Did they write it terrible
They
like
did
that?
write terrible like
Really?
that, yeah.
Just like Charles Barkley,
Yep,
terrible.
exactly like that.
How did they spell it?
T-U-R-R.
Turrble.
That's a great job right
Terrible.
there by the texter. Great job. And he's not wrong. Last year, 31st in the NFL on third down, 30th in red zone. They were terrible last year.
And you know what? Washington has done a good job over the last couple of years. Now, let's be honest. Over the last couple of years, the Eagles have had a very good offense. Very good offense. And Washington twice went with, we're going to hold on to the ball. We're going to average 3.8 yards a carry. We're going to throw little dinks and dunks. We're going to hold on to the ball because our best defense against this Eagles offense is to keep the offense on the field. I wonder if a lot of teams are going to adopt that also. Ray, what else do we have?
Mark's checking in one more time with some frustration. Linebackers have been a huge disappointment since the loss of Hargrave and Fletcher Cox. We took the rush defense for granted because of number 91 occupying the interior since 2012, and now we've been exposed. I don't see the problem getting fixed this year.
Now, it's funny. In Jeremiah Trotter, who we mentioned, Tyrone came in to talk to us about it during a break, and he said, Trotter's probably going to be a starter on this defense. And I was like, whoa. I said, I didn't look at him as anything more than someone that's going to compete against like a Sean Bradley to get, to play some special teams. Ty had a good point. He says, yeah, on a good team, he would probably be that. This isn't a good team, and they don't have I shouldn't say. This isn't a good linebacking team, so he should get every opportunity to be there. That scares me, too. That a fifth-round pick, an undersized linebacker that many had going in the 5th round and didn't label as much as a starting linebacker in this league, is that a guy they're going to be counting on?
Yeah, there's a lot of – I'm hoping that we don't have to rely on all of these rookies because people are saying Quinyon Mitchell, he's going to start week 1. Cooper DeJean, he's going to contribute. Now we're saying Jeremiah Trotter, he's going to contribute. To ask 3 rookies to contribute to your defense on a team that truly has Super Bowl aspirations, that gets me a little bit concerned. One of those guys, maybe, but to ask 3 of them to play a big part, that may be asking a little bit too much for us to have Super Bowl aspirations. Doesn't mean they can't have a good season and be promising for year 2, but I would have to go back and look. I don't know the answer to this, but how many Super Bowl teams had 3 rookie starters on their defense?
Yeah. Well, Kansas City, the year they beat the Eagles in that secondary, did they have a couple? Or maybe more. We'll have to look that one up. But, yeah, it's a great question. A lot of Eagles talk today after the schedule came out. Matt Breen is going to join us at 1 o'clock from Philadelphia Inquirer, Inquirer.com. to talk everything going on in the Philadelphia sports world. We have the question out there, too, because it's a big concern of mine, and I'm not just throwing it out there. It's not a hot take. If you're a listener, you know I'm not that. I don't trust this Eagles defense right now. I just don't. I think it could prevent them from winning 1 or 2 games. Bill has 13 wins, and Ray has 11. I might even dial that back to 10-ish if this defense doesn't shore up quickly. You have confidence in them? Let us know. Are you with me? Let us know. 610-632-0975. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. with us all day long. Don't forget, coming up at 2 o'clock, the best show ever. Tyrone and Ricky, along with Silvana, who just joined us in our other studio for a second. And she's like, what do you got? What do you got record-wise? And Ray said 11-6. And she said, me too. But she had a different take on it. Silvana has the Eagles going 3-3 in division. She has them losing once to the Giants, once to the Redskins, and once to the Cowboys. Right, Ray? Did I have that right? Splitting with everybody?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You were looking at me like,
Well, I just mean people got to hear Savannah's full schedule coming up at 2 o'clock with the best show.
well,
ever.
that's why that was a tease, Ray.
Yeah.
It was a tease.
Look at Ray looking out saying, hey, don't.
I know. You're
They got
you're
4
part of
hours
this
to do.
show, dude.
We got an hour.
No.
We got Matt
Man,
Breen coming up at 1 o'clock.
I got to give you another life lesson. You protect the family. We're your family. You don't go outside of the family. Us three right here is family. She is an extended part of the family. But you look here first. I'm going to have to show you The Sopranos to give you another life lesson.
What?
All right, we have another text message.
Going on here
I don't
today?
know. We got
What
another
got
text.
into you there?
We got another
It's a
text.
scary moment, Bob. I don't like that side of you.
You went against the family a little bit.
I don't think I did.
I think I said something, and you're like, whoa, be quiet, because she has something to do.
All right, we'll go back to the text line here. Bill, if he comes running out of that studio to kill me, I need you to, stop
Never.
him.
Hey,
Never.
You're my
Your
brother.
family. I wouldn't do that to
You're
you.
my brother, and I love you. Will you
That's
ever
right.
take sides against the family again?
All right, we're going to go to C.
He doesn't
from
know
Bucks
that
County.
movie. He doesn't know the movie.
Nope.
I'm going to C from Bucks County. Bill says that Sirianni is a good coach. Bill, this is for you. Bill says that Sirianni is a good coach. How good of a coach is he if he can't successfully run his own offense as an offensive-minded coach? Andy Reid has lost multiple offensive coordinators in Kansas City, and yet they don't miss a beat. Any offensive head coach that is so dependent on having a strong offensive coordinator isn't a good coach. You say he's good with the culture and connecting with players. Where was all of that during the collapse last season?
That's what a lot of people keep going back to, is where was all that at the collapse last season? And what I keep saying is we're going to take 51 games of Nick Sirianni's head coaching career, and everybody wants to focus on the last 7. I get it. It's the last 7 games that you saw. But why are we so willing to throw out 44 other games? And, yeah, he's not a great play caller, but I do think he should be involved in the offense. I want it to be mainly Kellen Moore's offense, but I think under Nick Sirianni's watch, with him involved in this offense, there's been a lot of success over the last 3 seasons. You had a quarterback in Jalen Hurts who was an MVP candidate in 2022, led the MVP race for 11 weeks in 2023. You had a wide receiver in A.J. Brown, set number 1 and number 2 in franchise history for most receiving yards in a season when Nick Sirianni was involved in that offense. Everybody wants to focus on the last 7 games, and it was ugly. But why are you so willing to throw out everything else that this guy has done? He's done things that no coach in Eagles history has ever done. Made the playoffs his first 3 seasons. His record, his first 45 games with Jalen Hurts, 34-11, is the 5th best ever in NFL history. Everyone wants to throw that out the window. And everybody who loves all these other coaches and players, why do you put all the blame on Nick Sirianni? I've said this before. I think Sirianni deserves a majority of the blame. But when we look at the last 7 games of the season, when the Eagles didn't have an answer for the blitz, no one talks about Jeff Stoutland, the greatest offensive line coach that this city's ever seen, maybe this league has ever seen. And I love Jeff Stoutland. Well, he's responsible for pass protection. How come he couldn't figure out how to stop the blitz? We love Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox, 2 of the best leaders we've ever seen in this city. They weren't able to stop the bleed down the stretch, but yet everyone's immediately going to jump to Sirianni's a clown, fire Nick Sirianni, and you don't look at the full picture here that there's been a lot more success in his coaching tenure so far. This is a make-it-or-break-it year, but I just don't understand the overblown hate towards Nick Sirianni. I had to come on the morning show this week, got woke up super early by Connor saying, hey, John and Andrew want to yell at you for defending Nick Sirianni. I had to call in and defend Nick Sirianni. Anyway.
Super early? Bob, you want to talk to him about super early?
No, that's all right. That did stick up in my ears a little bit. But that was a rant almost Ray-like. We've seen Ray go off. I will say this. I think a lot of the stuff now, you use like words like clown and hate and all that stuff. And just the journalist in me is like, I hope people aren't saying that. Like, I don't know. But I will say that I think an overriding story with Nick Sirianni that maybe makes fans, Bill, act like this is look how coordinator involved a lot of these stories are, right? So first 7 games of the season start under his tenure, and he says, I'm not good enough to be calling plays, so he hands it off to a coordinator. They get better. They wind up going to the playoffs. The next season, they're really, really good, and it turns out it may look like, in people's eyes, that you had 2 really good coordinators that year that were really helpful and go on to get head coaching jobs. Then the next year happens, and you have a downfall where you fire a defensive coordinator in the middle of the season and an offensive coordinator that appeared, according to everyone, not to be ready. Do you think that's why, Bill? Do you think maybe that's why people look at Sirianni? I'm not going to say rightly, but the reason the main focus goes the way you were just describing.
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of the reason. But what I don't like is you go to 2022 and you say, oh, the only reason that the offense and the defense were so good was because they had Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon. But then you go to 2023 when they had an inexperienced offensive and defensive coordinator, and all of the blame is on Nick Sirianni. So why can you have that argument both ways? Why do we not give him any credit for the good season, but we give him all of the blame for the bad season? And there's other coaches out there. A lot of people think Dan Campbell is a great coach. It's not Dan Campbell calling the offensive plays. It's not Dan Campbell calling the defensive plays. And Dan Campbell's only responsibility is to game manage and be a CEO coach. Well, he single-handedly made decisions that lost them that game in the playoffs with those terrible decisions to keep going for it. But yet people still say, oh, well, Nick Sirianni, he can't be a CEO coach like Dan Campbell. I've never seen Nick Sirianni make decisions like that in game where you said, wow, that single-handedly lost the game for the Philadelphia Eagles because he was so stubborn and kept going for it. So I get what you're saying, Bob, but I just don't understand why you give him all of the blame for 23 and none of the credit for 22.
To the Campbell comparison, though, do you think we've gotten from the Lions the idea that they were confused whose offense and who was in charge of the offense there? Like, I mean, we had that last season. We had last season where there was, is this Brian Johnson, is this Nick Sirianni? I mean, I think it was a Tim McMahon's report that was players were not sure who exactly who was in charge and who was, like, part of the CEO structure is the leadership and having that chain of command and having ability to figure that out. I mean, that's a massive question mark of just, you know, you say that obviously with the offense and the success that they've had with him, you want him to have a piece in that. Do we believe that he can keep himself out of this situation where, all right, am I looking at Kellen Moore? Am I looking at Nick Sirianni? Because it felt like there was no chain of command that made any sense to anyone on that offense last year.
No, it's a good point, but you didn't hear that in 2022 when you had an experienced offensive coordinator with Shane Steichen. I think a lot of the reason you heard that last year was because Brian Johnson had never called plays in the NFL before, had never been an offensive coordinator in the NFL before. So there was a lot of, well, whose offense is this? Does Nick Sirianni need to get more involved because of the fact that Brian Johnson is inexperienced? I don't think you're going to get that this year. You didn't get it in 2022. I don't think you'll get it this season. I'm not forgiving Sirianni. Yes, he should take a majority of the blame for the way it ended last season, for how bad it looked at times last year. But we have seen this sort of structure work when you have a more experienced offensive coordinator like you did 2 years ago.
It's interesting. It's an interesting conversation to be had, and a question that we'll ask you when we get back in the 1 o'clock hour after we talk to Matt Breen from Philadelphia Inquirer. Where do you stand with Nick Sirianni? How much trust do you have in him? We talked about they get 4 games before the bye. Are Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman kind of sitting around saying, okay, we'll see where he stands after 4 games, and maybe we make a decision there. A lot to talk about when it comes to Nick Sirianni. When we get back, Matt Breen from the Inquirer, Inquirer.com, is going to join us to talk all thing Philadelphia sports. This is Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. o'clock hour here on Middays. Thanks for being with us. We truly, truly appreciate you. Also want to say thanks again to our YouTube family for hanging out. Great conversation among you guys. But listen, no fighting on YouTube. Knock it off. You can disagree on stuff, but don't want to fight each other. Don't say, I want to meet you somewhere. Like, stop. We're all here just to have fun. It's sports, after all. It's not the real world. It's just sports. Got to tell you that the 12 o'clock hour, it was brought to you by Service First Heating and Air Conditioning. Get 0% financing for 72 months and a $500 rebate when you purchase a complete heating and cooling system from Service First. Learn more at servicefirsthvac.com. Bill, I looked a little bit into the future. We're going to have warm weather next week.
Oh, I'll take that.
Yeah, we're talking 70s and 80s, so I hope you're ready for that. Also, I hope you're ready for the Comcast Business Hotline, because on it, we have our friend Matt Breen. Matt, how you doing today? How are things?
I'm doing great, guys. How you guys doing?
Doing great. I don't know why. Why is he getting the Green Day lead in?
Breen Day.
Oh, it's Breen Day.
Oh, I like it.
Bob.
Did we get this before?
Yes. Yes,
Oh.
I've explained it to you.
I got to start
once
paying
or twice.
attention.
Three
Shut
times,
up, Ray.
maybe.
I swear, I'm at my short end of the straw with Ray today, Matt, so it might be the last time you ever talk to him. But today on the sports scene, as you know, yesterday was schedule release day, one of the biggest days in sports in Philadelphia and all throughout the country. I'm not going to ask you to do W and L's, Matt, but what is your overall view of this Eagles team going into the season? Now, having seen the schedule, where do you think they sit in your overall view?
Yeah, it's obviously, foolish to, go game by game and say what their record's going to be. But the one thing that stood out to me was the way it finished. And after they come home from Los Angeles, they really hardly go on the road. If you consider going to Baltimore and going to D.C., road games, there's not much travel involved, right? So they're after week 13 on, they're pretty much home, minimal travel, and that we know how this team starts a season, but there's concern about how they finish the season. So that's what I'm looking at. How are they going to finish the season this year after last year? And one of the good things about that is the schedule's not that tough, but also at the end of the season, their travel is minimal. They're home for the most of the part. It's set up for them to not collapse the way they did last year. And until, that's going to be hanging over their head until it doesn't happen. So we're going to be talking about it again in November. Here it comes down the stretch. And I just think it's it's set up for them to avoid what happened last year with the way the schedule came out.
And obviously the first goal is to try to win the NFC East. And in order to do that, they probably are going to have to beat out the Dallas Cowboys. We were looking at the odds, and the Cowboys and the Eagles still have the same odds to win the NFC East, but Cowboys have lost a lot of pieces. How good are the Cowboys going to be this year, Matt?
Yeah, I think odds are a funny thing because a lot of odds, like we know, it's based on who's betting and where the money's at. And, the Cowboys are a national brand with a huge following, so a lot of Cowboys fans are betting on the Cowboys to win the NFC East. But, logically, I think Dak Prescott's a really good quarterback. I think he's a lot better than people around here give him credit for. CeeDee Lamb is obviously an elite, maybe the elite wide receiver in the NFL. But I can't take a team serious when you're signing Ezekiel Elliott and he's your starting running back. So that's, again, was an elite player one time, looks totally washed in New England. And that doesn't seem like a team to me that is up to the Eagles standard. So I think the NFC East is kind of weak. It's a weak division, in my opinion. I think the Giants are what they are. The Commanders wouldn't scare me. And I think the Cowboys just aren't. Their offseason was surprising. I just didn't think it was attacked with, they weren't aggressive the way they built the roster, even though Jerry Jones said, obviously, they were going all in or whatever. It didn't seem like that. And then when they signed Zeke, it was I thought it was one of those fake. You think the tweet's fake at first. There's no way that's really their answer here. So they have a good quarterback. Obviously, they have a CeeDee Lamb, but I just don't think they are a team that's going to be a threat for that NFC East title.
Matt, you said that you don't take it seriously, was your quote. My thought that went into my mind was, if you're an outsider looking in at the Eagles with this defense that they have, could you label them as such also? You can't take them seriously because They have no linebackers. They don't really have a defensive. They got rid of their best defensive linemen, old corners. Like, can you take the Eagles seriously?
Yeah, I think. I mean, they went out and got Huff, and who isn't at times was an elite player. They made upgrades. They drafted, heavy on the defensive side. There's a new defensive coordinator, and once you have new coaching on both sides, that's a reason for optimism. I think the defense obviously the defense was an issue last year. I think they made improvements. I think you definitely take them serious, and you take them, especially in the NFL. You have to look at the quarterback position, and I still believe that Jalen Hurts is an elite quarterback. Like, I was listening to what you guys were talking about yesterday, and I agreed between the. Is he closer to Kirk Cousins than Patrick Mahomes? Sure. But, I'm closer to Kirk Cousins than Patrick. Like, no one is. There's one Patrick Mahomes. So he's a way better quarterback than Kirk Cousins. And he is a more likely, if I was going to bet on something, I would bet that he would finish his career more closer to an elite quarterback than a guy that's I don't want to call Kirk Cousins a game manager because he's better than that, but he's not someone I'm signing with the plans that he's going to take me to a Super Bowl.
I'd put you closer to Kirk Gibson.
There we go. I
Okay.
come off the bench and hit one.
Yeah, there you go.
Matt, there was a lot to like about the Eagles' schedule. It looks like it's a lot better than last season's, but one of the things that jumped out as a little bit concerning was the bye week being so early in Week 5. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you're gonna obviously you want it more in the middle of the season, but it is what it is. I think it comes after it's close to the Brazil game, which is going to be a challenge of travel, and so I think that's where it can be a benefit. That this Brazil game is going to carry over, and then you're going to get a break 4 weeks later after that, and maybe that alleviates some of that concern. But ideally, you want to buy in towards the middle, but you can't always get that. And I don't get too caught up in that, especially the way the Eagles practice and the way the sports science is involved. And it seems like they find ways to get these guys rest throughout the season. And the bye week is what it is. That's the way it was scheduled, and everybody has to deal with it.
Talking to Matt Breen on the Comcast Business Hotline from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Matt, I'm going to switch over to baseball on you. And this Phillies team at 31-13, just so much fun. They can win pretty. They can win ugly. They can win when they're not hitting, when they're not pitching. All of it is encompassing there. I had one little worry this week, and that was with Trey Turner sidelined, over 30 years old. With JT Realmuto sitting out, a knee issue, over 30 years old. With Kyle Schwarber, a little bit of a back issue, over 30 years old. Is this team, with all the greatness around them, is that maybe one of the things we need to keep an eye on?
Yeah, and you look at recent, semi-recent Phillies history, guys get old fast, right? And sometimes they get old at the same time, and it can happen. But I don't think the concern is now to be concerned about that. I think the concern is the window of how far can this window be opened if you're relying so heavily on these stars that you went and acquired. And that's why it was so important to build the farm system. And you're seeing some of those rewards start to get to the major leagues. But it still has a ways to go that they need to strengthen this farm system, especially having guys get into the majors that can produce the way that Alec Bohm and Bryson Stott have. So there's a recipe to go out, and what they did was what they mostly bought a roster. They spent a lot of money on free agents, but there's also the flip side of that when you're buying free agents, you're getting guys that are already later in their career. So you have to start talking about the aging curve and seeing how that goes. But right now, I mean, I get it that, for you to be concerned about it, but this team they're playing, it's the best Phillies team since, or that's, at least at this point, it's the best Phillies team since 2011, in my opinion. Who knows how it's going to finish? Obviously, 2022, they went to the World Series, so that's finished as the best team since then. But they're on pace right now to win, 114 games, which is insane. They can go 500 the rest of the way and win 90 games. And you look at the wild card last year, 2 teams made the playoffs with 84 wins. So a lot can happen. It's not Memorial Day yet, but, like, not to jinx it, but, like, they've pretty much locked up a playoff spot already. And that's why it's so important to get off to a good start, is because now you give yourself a cushion where, like, they need to play less than 500 the rest of the way to miss the playoffs. Because, like, somewhere between 84 and 90 is probably that magic number to clinch a wild card. And, like, you're not going to talk about wild cards because you want to win in division. But just being realistic about it, like, they're in a great spot. And the pitching, the starting pitching is way better than I expected it to be. The lineup has actually not even performed as well as we probably thought. It's, obviously it's the pitching that's carrying them to the start. So now as the weather gets warmer, the lineup's going to, like, Harper seems to be, coming into his own. And once he gets hot, it's just like no other hitter in baseball. And I think, once the lineup matches what the pitching's doing, they can keep this going. Are they going to win 114 games? I would bet you they will not. But they are going to, in my opinion, they're going to cruise to the playoff spot.
So you said that they're on pace to win 114. And the Twitter poll of the day here on the show today was, are they going to win the most in franchise history, which is 102 games? So do you think that this team is going to set the new franchise record and have over 102 wins?
It's a great question, and I'm going to say they will not, but I think they will come close because, like, 90 is such a low bar at this point. Like I said about the 500, that 100, it's going to be closer to 100, but it's too early for me to say, like, they're going to clear that bar. And I don't know. I think they will finish closer to 100 wins. Can they win 102? Sure. But, like, in my opinion, like that 2011 team, I know how it ended, but that was the best Phillies team I ever watched. I don't, and maybe I'll feel about that way about this team at the end of the season. But I don't feel like yet I'm watching the 2011 Phillies, even though maybe I should, because obviously they're off to a great start.
So, Matt, you said when you came on the show, and a lot of people gave you the hand wave here at the station when you said, yeah, it's silly to do W's and L's. Where do you think this Eagles team is, though? Like, if I had to say to you, all right, Matt, I don't want you to do individual games, but give me that this – here's what I said, Matt. I said I think it's like a 10, 11 win team, maybe up to 12. Where do you sit there, like, as far as wins may go?
I would take the over. I think they are. And I'm not – I hate to sound like a homer because you just said 10 and 11. I'm putting it at 14. I think it's like a 13 to 14 win team.
Ray Dunn literally just fell down looking
at Ray have?
He has them 11 and 6. Bill has them 13 and 4.
There we go, Bill.
You went 14 and 3. Matt Breen.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like I feel like
don't be sorry.
It's like I'm a homer, but I looked at it yesterday real quick, and it's like only a handful of teams, scare me. I don't respect the Giants. I don't respect the Commanders. I know the Cowboys have, historically, like in this era, really seem to have the Eagles' number, but like I think that's changing. Atlanta Falcons, the Saints. I just think it's a very winnable, a lot of winnable games, and I just think that again, like this team, the last 2 seasons, the way they start years off, roll off wins. And I think to get to 13 would be, like, if 13's in reach, I think 14 would be like that magic number to get, and I think they definitely get there. But if you're setting a line at 10, I would crush you over on that one.
All right, Matt, I love it. Can't beat it. We appreciate you joining us, and we will talk to you again either next Wednesday or Thursday. I know it's always schedule pending, but can't wait to talk to you then. Thanks, buddy.
Sounds good, guys. Have a good one.
All right, Matt. Matt Breen from the Inquirer. For those people, I don't even know if it was on our YouTube page. So Matt said 14 win. Now, he started the show, or the interview, by making it sounding kind of like me, like, I just look at it overall, blah, blah. So that's why I kind of posed that. There was, so Matt, what do you think over? Oh, 14 wins.
Yeah, and then he says, I looked at it last night.
Yeah, Ray fell over in his chair. He was so surprised that he said that. Is that the most amount that we've heard from anyone so far? 14 wins?
I think Chris in Allentown had him 17-0. So aside from Chris, I think that's probably the most that we've had so far.
But
wow.
Matt isn't wrong. When you look on paper, and I was saying this before we even got the schedule, you look at the opponents that the Eagles will have to play, and on paper, they should have been favored in 14 out of 17 games. And now that there are the early lines out, the only one that I had wrong was the Los Angeles Rams game, and it's a half-point spread right now, which is essentially a pick 'em. So when you're actually looking at it, which we're doing right now on paper, we have to play the games. This is the reason why you play the games. But when you're looking on paper, yeah, the Eagles are probably better than 14 of their 17 opponents, or I should say 14 of the 17 games because you play the NFC East twice. But right now, the over-under for wins for the Eagles is 10.5. Sounds like all of us would take the over.
I'm between 10 and 12, so I would think about it. I still am shocked that Matt kind of threw that haymaker there at the end. That was pretty cool. All right, the question I have out there for you right now, check in with us, 610-632-0975. Where's your confidence level with Nick Sirianni? We laid out a whole bunch of things. Bill laid out perfectly on the pro side of it about you got to look at the record. You can't deny this. You can't deny he was a big part of them going to a Super Bowl in his second season. We were talking off air, and he's like, look, you can't have a clown, as air quotes there, a clown as a head coach who has had the success rate that Nick Sirianni has had. We're talking about a 9-7 season. We're talking about a 14-3 season that went to the Super Bowl. And then last year they started 10-1 before faltering, but still making the playoffs the first 3 seasons. I wonder, is it because of all the talk of the coordinators that people may be down on Nick Sirianni, saying the coordinators get so much credit when they were good, the coordinators get so much of the blame when they were bad, and Sirianni's just kind of a bystander. Where do you feel on this? What do you feel on this? And because the schedule is now out, is he going to get a long look from the owner, from the general manager, after 3 weeks of the season when that bye week, or 4 weeks of the season, when that bye week comes up? Let us know what you think, 610-632-0975. I got to remind you that the 1 o'clock hour, it's brought to you by Ferguson HVAC Lyon Conklin. Attention HVAC contractors, for equipment, parts, and supplies for every heating and cooling job, visit one of Ferguson's counter locations in Bensalem, King of Prussia, Pennsauken, or Westchester. Okay, when we get back, let's talk about that. Let's talk what you think about Nick Sirianni. I am still stunned. I feel like I took a shot to the jaw. Didn't knock me out, but I'm kind of woozy a little bit. Ray went all the way to the floor when Matt Breen called it 14 wins. You can tell us what you have. You can tell us about Nick Sirianni. Do you have trust in him or not? Where do you stand with him? But when you get done your thought, I need a prediction on a record because you have the schedule right in front of you. We're going to open it up to you now, 610-632-0975. Nick Sirianni is the talk. What are your predictions for this season? I'm Bob Cooney. This is Middays, 97.5 The Fanatic. Hey, welcome back. Last half hour of the show here today. We thank you for joining us. Bill Colarulo's been here with us all day. You got the best show ever coming up next with Tyrone and Ricky and Silvana. That's all I'll say, because if I say anything more, Ray gets mad at me. Fanatic deal of the week I got to tell you about, New Jersey Motorsports Park. That's right. You can get a $100 gift card to New Jersey Motorsports Park for just $50. It's located in Millville, New Jersey. Famous baseball player came from there. You'll be able to experience high-speed thrills with arrive and drive go-karting, plus axe throwing, and a wide-ranging menu at the Finish Line Pub. Get this exclusive offer while supplies last at 975thefanatic.com/deals. Bill, have you ever been axe throwing? We were talking about this a little bit yesterday. Have you gone axe throwing?
I did. Not at any of the axe throwing around here. I actually went to Quebec's Winter Festival one year, and they had axe throwing there. It was awesome, man. It was a lot of fun. But
really?
I may take advantage of this Fanatic deal that we have going this week, because that's half off.
Oh, yeah, and I like a Finish Line Pub. Why not? I found it amazing, and I said this the other day when we went axe throwing, that it's like you drink beer and throw an axe. I wouldn't put those two things together, but they seem to do it well and make sure everybody's out of the way. And I was horrible. I was so mad at myself. Horrible when I went axe throwing the one time.
That doesn't surprise me. You're not really an athlete, right, Ray?
Yeah,
Bob isn't really athletic.
No. There's a lot of things I will criticize Bob for. I will not take a shot at his athleticism.
Now, I saw him
Wait a
shoot
second.
a basketball.
What are
He
you-
can shoot.
What are you criticizing me for?
Well, the old jokes. I mean, that's more I thought we were
I
going to
thought we talked about that.
Well, I said I didn't make the joke. You asked about the joke. I could criticize the memory or the old, but I can't. I'm not going to go after your athleticism, man. I was on your side. You actually tried to turn this as me against you. I was up against Bill here. We at one point were going to work together here. This was going to be the two of us against Bill. And you know what you did? You said, "No, let me pick apart the one part of the sentence that was not good, that I didn't like."
Look at him bitching. Like,
What? Me? This was you. You were the one that were complaining.
You know how to get under Ray's skin. I haven't developed that skill yet. I can't get under Ray's skin, nor would I want to, Ray.
No.
it's not under his skin. How can we describe it? It's,
No.
I work his feelings a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I get worked up easily.
let me ask you this, because earlier I got a little upset with the person calling about
A little.
Sirianni.
Woof.
So I want to ask everybody.
I don't want to see a lot.
I want to ask everybody a question, because I did this exercise over the weekend on one of my weekend shows. Look up and down the NFC, and where do you rank Sirianni as a head coach? Because there are not a lot of good coaches in the NFC. And I even went a step further and said, well, let's rank them head coach quarterback combinations, because there's also not a lot of good quarterbacks in the NFC. So when people are saying, hey, move on from Sirianni, or Jalen Hurts isn't a franchise quarterback, I've heard that from people. The grass isn't always greener on the other side, man. And you look at the NFC, I take Sirianni and Jalen Hurts over pretty much everybody, with the exception of two head coach quarterback combos.
Who's your two?
So I have, even though
Are we just talking NFC or?
just NFC.
Oh, okay.
So I have, at the top, I have Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy. Even though I don't think Kyle Shanahan is necessarily a great coach, he's struggled to win that big game, I'm willing to admit that Brock Purdy is not just a flash in the pan. I think Brock Purdy is a very good quarterback, and together, I think they're a great combination. At number two, I have the Los Angeles Rams with Sean McVay and Matt Stafford. McVay has an over 600 winning percentage and obviously won the Super Bowl in 2021 with Stafford. And then I got Sirianni and Hurts at number three. And I have them above Green Bay, because even though I think Jordan Love could elevate to being a franchise quarterback, I don't think he's there after a half a season. Nobody wants to give Jalen Hurts credit for only one season. Why give Jordan Love credit for only a half a season? And then at number five, I have Dan Campbell and Jared Goff. And I mean, I could go through all of them with you, but I have Sirianni high on the list with Jalen Hurts as a combination.
All right, let's do this then, because we did this practice yesterday. And what I said yesterday was, where do you put Jalen Hurts? It kind of came down to a ranking thing, but I put it differently. I said, all right, let's take other quarterbacks from around the NFL, and would you put them on the Eagles comfortably ahead of Jalen Hurts.
And I would venture to say that a majority of the quarterbacks are probably in the AFC. When you look at the NFC, what quarterbacks in the NFC would you put on the Eagles over Jalen Hurts?
There was not one NFC quarterback that anybody would put on this Eagles team. Now, it's not ranking those. It was what quarterbacks in the NFL would you put on the Eagles team in place of Jalen Hurts with all the offense surrounding them that you would be comfortable with. It came down to Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. The next one that these guys couldn't agree. What was the one that you split on? Was it Matt Stafford?
No, it was Rodgers that we split on.
Oh, yeah, Aaron Rodgers. Amy said, I'll take Aaron Rodgers over Jalen Hurts with this offense. Ray did not. Do you agree with that list, Bill?
What was it again?
Mahomes, Jackson, Allen, Burrow.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that list over Jalen Hurts, but that's why I'm pointing out they're all AFC quarterbacks. So
exactly.
When you do the exercise of head coach quarterback combo in the NFC, that's why I'm putting them so high, because you have to take both into the equation, because I do think there's some decent coaches. Like, I think Brian Daboll is a decent coach in New York, but when you tie him to Daniel Jones, I got him way down on the list.
Okay, so let's do it this way. Similar to what we did yesterday. I'll give you the coach. Would you take him here over Nick Sirianni to play him with Jalen Hurts in the way that you're saying? I'll give you the coach.
Let's do it.
You tell me yes or no. I am not going to go. All right, Jonathan Gannon.
No. I'm keeping Sirianni.
Okay. Raheem Morris.
If you ask me in a couple of seasons, my answer may change, but just based off of his first stint as a head coach, I have to say no. He has a .356 winning percentage. I know he was young when he took the head coaching job in Tampa, but I would have to say no based off the history.
Chicago, Matt Eberflus.
Definitely not. Keeping Sirianni.
Okay. Dallas, Mike McCarthy.
Not taking Mike McCarthy. I know he has a .620 winning percentage. He won a Super Bowl in 2010, but no coach in NFL history has ever won a Super Bowl with multiple franchises. It's not going to be Mike McCarthy. I don't want him here.
Dan Campbell.
This one's close for me because there's a lot to like about Dan Campbell. There really is. But maybe it's recency bias. I still see him making the bad decisions in the NFC Championship game there that lost him the game. That one's probably a toss-up. I would probably lean towards taking Dan Campbell over Sirianni, but it's close. For me, it's not a guarantee because he's a CEO coach just like Sirianni's turning into be.
Matt LaFleur.
Definitely taking LaFleur over. I think LaFleur may be, between him and Sean McVay, I would put them as the two best coaches in the NFC. The only reason I have Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love ranked a little bit lower is I'm just not ready to put Jordan Love above Hurts yet. He may be there after this season, but for right now, based off a half a season. But, yes, I would take LaFleur over Sirianni.
And McVay also.
And McVay also, yeah.
Okay. Kevin O'Connell.
I'm not taking Kevin O'Connell.
All right. Dennis Allen.
Dennis Allen should not be a head coach in the NFL. He has a .343 winning percentage. I can't believe the Saints have kept this man around. I think he's a terrible coach.
All right, you mentioned earlier Brian Daboll.
I wouldn't take Daboll. I think he would have more success with a better quarterback than he has with Daniel Jones or Tommy Cutlets. But based off of what he's done so far, I'm not taking Daboll.
Kyle Shanahan.
I'm not a huge fan of Kyle Shanahan. I also don't like that they made their defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, the scapegoat in the Super Bowl when it was Kyle Shanahan's decision to take the ball in overtime. But I would take him over Sirianni because I do think he's a very good offensive mind.
I agree with you on that one. Mike McDonald, we don't really know much about now because he's just starting out in Seattle. How about Todd Bowles?
Now, I don't think Todd Bowles is that great of a coach. I know he's got the Temple history, and we root for him and all that, but I don't think he's that good of a coach. He has a .426 winning percentage in his NFL career. I'm keeping Sirianni.
And finally, Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn's an interesting one because he's a great defensive coordinator. We've seen that. He goes to Atlanta, has a lot of success. They go to the Super Bowl. They go up 28-3. against the Patriots, they blow it, and he was never able to recover from that. So if you're asking me right now, I'm keeping Sirianni. I would take Dan Quinn as a defensive coordinator all the time. I think he's great. But until he proves that he can be a very good head coach after that collapse, we'll find out in Washington.
All right, just out of curiosity, let me throw a couple AFC guys at you also. Sean McDermott.
Nah, I wouldn't take Sean McDermott.
Okay. Zach Taylor.
Tough to tell because how good of a coach is he? We didn't, Joe Burrow getting hurt last year, he wasn't able to recover, but who can really recover? I know Stefanski did it in Cleveland, losing his quarterback, but Zach Taylor's a toss-up. I don't know how good of a coach he is right now.
Kevin Stefanski.
It's hard, man, because he did what Stefanski did last year. What was he on, his fourth starting quarterback? But I'm keeping Sirianni.
Well, I'm taking Stefanski.
No, I'm taking Stefanski. While we're having this conversation, going back to some of these guys, I think some of the Dan Quinn example, Dan Quinn might be an interesting learning point for this group. Because Dan Quinn, that first season, okay, they play around 500, gets them to a Super Bowl. They have a double-digit lead in the Super Bowl. Now it was a bigger double-digit lead, but they blew that double-digit lead and lost in the Super Bowl to, at that point, the best quarterback in the NFL. They come back the next season, and they don't win their division. He goes 10-6. Sirianni's team went 11-6. How do you respond to that? How do you end up building it back? Because I'll be honest, Dan Quinn, we could sit here now and say, okay, yeah, what's he going to be? He was a good defensive coordinator. At one point, I think we'd be having conversations about Dan Quinn as a head coach the way people view Sirianni.
No, it's a good point. It's a good point. And all I'll say is one of the things that I've said about Sirianni when I feel like I have to defend him, which is crazy to me that I'm always the one defending Sirianni. But no one else had to deal with not only losing the Super Bowl, but losing both of their coordinators in an offseason. That's only been done twice, and the two teams that did it, they didn't lose the Super Bowl the year before. So to me, it's Sirianni. We're going to learn a lot about him this year. I think last year there was a lot going up against him. There was a lot being asked of him to do something that's never been done in the history of the NFL. That was why I said he deserves another chance. But when I look at overall the 3 years, I'm still taking him above Dan Quinn. But it's a good point, Ray. Let's hope he doesn't turn out to be.
Well, the flip side of history, of course, is he was dealing with something that hadn't been done in NFL history, but he also did something that had only been done one other time in history of the NFL when it comes to that collapse. You start 10-1, you don't end up getting to 12 wins.
I agree with you. But, and again, I always feel like I'm trying to defend him.
You don't have to.
It wasn't.
We can sit here and rip it.
I don't think it was a. No, it's because I feel this way. I'm not just defending him to defend him. I feel this way, but it feels as if there's a lot of people who've turned on Sirianni very quickly. Very quickly. But my argument to always that collapse is this team didn't look like a 10-1 football team. We were saying it for the first 11 games that how are they winning these games? They're not that good. Their defense was terrible all season, and they won a few games early that they should not have won. So would we be sitting here viewing the season differently if instead of starting at 10-1, they started at 7-4? Because they could have very easily been 7-4.
Well, if they still lost 6 or 7 to end it, I don't think we'd be viewing it differently at all because they would have missed the playoffs. Then we wouldn't be having he made the playoffs 3 straight times. They got to 10-1.
But would we be calling for him to lose his job?
If they missed the playoffs and collapsed that epically at the end? Yeah. I don't even know if he'd have a job. I think he was bailed out by the fact they started 10-1.
We can't forget he was in the Super Bowl the year before.
I don't think he lose.
I don't think he was that close to keeping his job. I think he kept that barely.
I don't think he deserved to lose his job after one season.
All right, let me give you a few more names here real quick. Shane Steichen.
Oh, man. I think Shane Steichen is a very, very good coach. I mean, we've only seen him now as a head coach 1 year. He lost Anthony Richardson and still had success with Gardner Minshew. So it's hard to say yes right now because we've only seen it once, but I'm probably leaning yes on that.
Okay. Last one I'll give you here is going to be Doug Peterson.
Oh, Dougie P or Nick Sirianni? Wow, that's a tough one, man. That's a tough one.
Look, if it's a tough one, then now I'm labeling Nick Sirianni a 500 coach.
Yeah. It's hard because he won a Super Bowl here, but I'm probably, man, it's tough for me because it's hard to say But they did pick Nick Sirianni over Dougie P. I mean, they fired Doug Peterson and then hired Nick Sirianni. So,
Well, if we're going on that, we could say they like Chip Kelly better than Andy Reid. Something like that.
It's all about timing.
It's interesting. It's fun to look at. We can say who's better, who's worse. I like to put the person in the role that the person is here now. I think a lot of quarterbacks in the league would be really good with this offense that the Eagles have. Better than Jalen Hurts or not. We did that practice yesterday. That was fun with the head coaches. All right, when we get back, we're going to wrap this thing up today. Some final thoughts we'll get from you. Best show ever coming up at 2 o'clock. Tyrone, Ricky, and Silvana. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Hey, welcome back as we close things out here on this Thursday. Hope you're having a great one. Hope you're safe, happy, all of those things. As we close out today, get you ready for the best show ever. Coming up with Tyrone, Ricky, and Silvana. A lot of great stuff going on today. I'm still kind of chuckling at the Matt Breen, very soft and subdued kind of outlook and this and that. And I asked him a question expecting him to say, the Eagles should win the division, but I don't know because there are question marks. No, he comes out with the sledgehammer of, they're going to win 14 games. I don't know what you guys are thinking. Whoa. Biggest one we've heard so far. I think Andrew had to play detective this morning. I don't know if you heard this, Bill. John thinks that giving W's and L's is really, really stupid, and he goes against it. I don't think it's stupid. I think it's fun. I just don't do it because, I don't know if Jalen Hurts is going to be on the field the fourth game of the season. Those different things. I think the Eagles can be a 10 to 12 win team. That's how I put it. I love looking over the schedule. So John went with 12 wins, according to Andrew, dissecting everything that he said. Did you get a win total from Andrew that you remember at all, Ray? Or I think he was at maybe 12 also, somewhere around there.
Yeah, let's put him in at 12.
Okay, Ray went with 11.
He's got digital content coming out. I know that because he told me that he wrote about me in his story's coming out. Yeah, it's nice of him. Except
Dude,
he's ripping me.
everybody's talking about
Everybody's talking about
Not only
you.
was Andrew, weren't you on
the morning
Preston and
show
Steve?
on another. How about that?
Casey Boy's talking about me. No, but I think Andrew's ripping me. So let's not make this all fluffy, fun, and flowery. He's
Look, Ray, when you're as high profile as you have become, you're going to have to take the ripping along with the adulation.
And all publicity is good publicity.
That's right, Ray. So we have all those in. Bill is at 13 wins.
Correct.
Ray is at 11 wins. So everybody's running somewhere between 10 to 14 is the high with Matt. So I'm sure the best show ever. We'll come up and have some things for you as far as wins and losses also.
And let me ask you, Bob, because we put up that Twitter poll, which we'll have to get the final numbers from Ray, but the Twitter poll was about the Phillies win total and whether or not they're going to beat the franchise record of 102 wins. Will we get a prediction from you on that?
Yes, I will give you a prediction on that. Oh, you want it now? I believe that the Philadelphia Phillies will win more than 102 games this year.
Wow.
Yep. Or at least tie it. Or come under.
I'm going to agree with you, and this is why. This is purely mathematical. So I went and looked. Right now they're 31-13. There's 118 games left. So for them to get to 102, they'd have to win 71 more games. That would be a winning percentage of 602. Last year, down the stretch, they went 65-42 after their slow start, which was a winning percentage of 607. So we know this team is capable. They're not going to keep pace probably of 700 winning percentage, but they're capable of a 600 winning percentage. They've shown it.
Sure, they're at 705 now. Ray and I talked about it. It's something we are going to talk about tomorrow. Your confidence in the Phillies, where it is. So much more that we'll have. Stay tuned now for the best show ever. Just a reminder that tomorrow, 10 to 2, we're going to have Amy Fadul with us for the 4 hours. So make sure you join us then. We'll be here. Bill, I hope you have a great weekend. Don't forget to listen to Bill during the weekend. We'll talk to you tomorrow.